Commission's here tonight to work together with all of you, property owners, neighbors, and architects, to continue the tradition that was established nearly 40 years ago in this community. That tradition is a review process that allows community members to work together to preserve the qualities and unique character that make Lake Forest a special community. The City of Lake Forest is committed to conducting open and democratic meetings. To achieve that goal, community procedures have been adopted by the Commission. A copy of the procedures is available at the back of the room on each agenda. As always, it's the intent of the Commission to help manage the development and the growth of the City of Lake Forest with a keen sense of preserving the historic structures and open space for the city for its present and future residents. The goal is to move each petition before us tonight through the review process as quickly as possible while balancing the interests of the petitioners, neighboring property owners, and the larger community. Thanks for being here. We'll start with an introduction of the commissioners. Kirk Parrott.
Fred Moyer.
Bill Ransom.
And we have a small group tonight, so that'll either be a good thing or a bad thing. We'll find out. I think we need all four commissioners to act on any item to have a quorum. And I think the first thing we have tonight is meeting minutes from our July 27th meeting. Those were circulated. I think everybody got a copy of those, and I would ask if anybody has any comments or concerns with those meeting minutes.
I was just going to point out on page 8, on the third paragraph, there seems to be a typo as to respects, but it doesn't change the page 8, third paragraph, doesn't change any context. Particularly,
Let Megan catch up with that, see if she can find that. You got where he's.
Page 8, third full paragraph, Commissioner Ransom, third line, respects. That's the only thing I said.
Anything else? I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Berg.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Moyer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we have an approval for that. Thank you. All right. Our first agenda item is a continued petition. This is a request for a certificate of appropriateness approving a partial demolition and construction of addition at 950 Maplewood Road. So if you want to come on up, I think that everyone here was here for the first hearing of this. Do we have any ex parte conflicts?
No. Is there a
Do we have a petition? I'm sorry?
Moyer wasn't at the first one.
Do you have an ex parte conflict?
I do not.
Good. All right, if you want to go ahead and do that.
Present the model.
Saying anything first? Thank you. Are you ready?
Please.
Okay, I'm Steve Rugo from Rugo Raff Architects. I wasn't here the last time.
Okay, there you go.
I was somewhere across the ocean doing something. So since the last meeting, and Brian's going to go through the slides, we took in the account and worked with staff a little bit of trying to move first the front facade back where we were talking. You want to give the specifics and dimensions, Brian?
It was 5 feet before in the previous proposed to continue the ridge line as one continuous slope. It is now 4 feet.
So it removes the two slopes and the sort of skirt piece around the side that had some opposition or people felt a little uncomfortable with. With that, we moved it back to 2.5 feet. It increased the number of bricks above the arches from 2 to probably 4.5 or 5. specifically over those garage doors. Then within that same design, moving that along, it also enclosed the, by moving the second floor out the additional 3 or 4 feet, it eliminated the shed roof to the east, which we worked with staff to where we didn't continue the ridge line, but the suggestion was to reduce the ridge line over the third bay. We had looked at different things like moving the bays in and out on the front and those type of things, but keeping the more single eave line, we all felt that that was more appropriate to this particular house than changing the eave line, but rather change the ridge line similar to the sun porch on the west end, where it steps down from the middle portion of the massing. And that's probably the appreciable, those are the 2 appreciable differences. And we're kind of putting it up for your review at that point. I want to thank you for certainly accommodating the second meeting, not just doing one, when we'd all be here till all hours of the morning.
All right, thank you. Is there a staff report follow-up on this?
Thank you, Chairman Peretz. I'd first like to just state for the record that Commissioner Moyer did sign a statement that he reviewed the minutes and is prepared to act on this petition, even though he was not present. So, with respect to this petition, it is continued from the June meeting. During that time, the petitioner has worked to address some of the comments that were brought up at the meeting. Primarily, the Commission requested that other alternatives be explored so that the Commission could truly review this project in the context of alternatives and what was appropriate for the site. This is truly a case of balancing preservation with a practical need for a functioning 2-car garage. The existing garage is approximately 400 square feet, just over. The proposal brings it to, I believe, a 650 square foot garage, somewhere around there. The solution presented this evening may result in more demolition than what was proposed before, but the end result is a more cohesive design, and it looks less like an addition than what was previously proposed. There are some recommended conditions of approval in the staff report with respect to tree preservation, looking at a tree preservation maintenance plan for pre and post construction to really ensure that all steps are taken to preserve the fir trees along the property line. Also that the driveway expansion be kept to a minimal to help minimize the impact of the expanded garage from the street. Several neighbors provided either written or verbal testimony in June regarding this request, in support of the request. Since that time, we haven't received any additional contacts, but certainly there could be people in the audience this evening for public testimony. Staff is recommending approval of the project, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Now's the opportunity for questions to the petitioner. Any questions, comments? I think it's come a long way, actually. I like it a lot. I like losing the second break, particularly in the front. Could you just clarify what the conversation was regarding shortening the hip and if there's a
Previously,
I should say gable, a ridge.
there was hip roof here on the second floor.
Actually, not that part. I think we understand that, but at the top, you've stepped
the ridge line is doing this.
And the purpose of that?
Purpose of that was, it was kind of through work with
We have folks at home, so we can hear you, but they can't.
Working with staff that this area, this ridge line, and that ridge line is similar to that.
Yeah.
It was also mentioned too that the overall mass, if that was one continuous ridge, was starting to compete with the overall mass of the main ridge as well.
Yeah, and I see the alternative examples that you've drawn. Okay. Any other questions for the petitioner? Any opportunity for the public right now, if there's any public input, and I see none of that, so we can deliberate, or we can move. I like it a lot, actually. I think that the whether or not the ridge is stepped down or not at that location is kind of an interesting little detail, and I would be probably not unhappy to see that step go outboard of that third gable. But I don't know that, you know, it's a real nuance, because in 2 dimensions you see it kind of obviously, but in the field you.
3 dimensions, we don't think anybody's even going to notice.
But I do like it a lot better myself, actually.
Yes, I think they've done a lot of fine tuning on this that's gotten it better than what we looked at the last time. So I commendate the designers and the homeowner too for going through the process. I hope we were able to help you out with this. And I'm in support of the petition.
Thanks. Anybody else? I'll ask for a motion then.
I'll make a motion that we approve the revisions as submitted, and with any of the conditions in the staff report regarding the landscaping and driveway
All right, the
nuances.
motion's been made by Commissioner Berg, seconded
A second.
by Commissioner Moyer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. All right, we have a new petition, which is a request for a certificate of appropriateness approving the landscape plan at 693 Spruce Avenue. And I'll ask the commissioners if there's any ex parte conflict on this one.
None.
And I see none, so come on up and tell us what you got.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You're right. Okay. Yeah, actually, oh no, okay, maybe not. Yes, it did.
Did they?
All right,
Ready?
yep.
My name is Bruce Everly. I'm with a firm called Midwest Arbor Corporation. We were hired by the Burks. This is our third project with the Burks over the course of the last, I believe, 12 years on spruce to create a landscape design. We are a design build firm. After 3 months of work with the village and the Burks, we've come up with this as a final solution for the project, and we're looking for your input and hopefully your approval this evening. This is my first visit to this board, so I apologize. I'm not as familiar as what I'm supposed to do here, so if you can
Why
lead
don't
me.
you just walk us through the plan and maybe
Okay.
explain what you're trying to do with the landscaping, and you
Sure.
can keep it at a pretty informal level in terms of, but do speak into the microphone so the folks at home can listen in.
This landscape plan, its primary change is the relocation of the driveway entrance, which originally was located directly outside of the garage, so the view to the home was the garage directly. We've shifted that down to give it a front view of the door. We feel that's a big addition to this home. We've also created an evergreen hedge along the front to screen asphalt areas and also parking areas and the garage doors. It's a rather formal design. It's rectilinear in form in the turf panels. It's relatively simplistic. There's not a lot of variety of plant material here. We've kept it very clean, very simple, very elegant. The Burks have always enjoyed that style of look on all the homes that they've done in the past. We are asking to remove a tree in this location up here and replace it with some hop horn beams along the front of the home. There is an existing beech in this location which we've requested removal, but we've decided at this point in time that we should remove that request and leave it as it is at this point in time. The steps in the front of the home here, when we moved into the project, indicated there was one large step coming down off the entire front porch of the home. We felt that was a little strong, as well as the fact that the elevations weren't correct. So we really need 4 steps coming out of the home as opposed to 1 after we did our estimates and our look at the project. So we've split the steps into the front of the homes by creating 2 large planter features in the front of the house, adjacent both right and left of the front door, and extended 1 step from the home, 2 steps, and then an additional 4-foot landing, and the final 4th step with a 2-foot landing before you enter into the driveway, sort of extending that look and not allowing it to look so sharp and dramatic. The 2 planter beds were installed with boxwoods and kept it very simple and clean with some lilacs in the center of it. As far as the rear yard patios, they're very similar in shape and form to what was existing there, as we were told. We weren't there when the project started. They are bluestone, and we are reusing the existing bluestone in the rear patios that was there originally on the home. The backyard area is rather overgrown at this point in time. What we're looking at doing in the rear of the home is creating rectilinear turf panels and leaving the rear corners both on the east and west ends native, and leave that as it currently is right now, but designing both east and west ends closer to the home with a formal perspective.
Great.
So we've gone and worked with Megan quite a bit. She's been a pleasure to work with and given us some advice, and we've made some adjustments, and hopefully that fits your guys' perspective of what it should be over there.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have a staff report, Megan?
Thank you, Chairman Peretz. This is a pretty straightforward plan. It's before the commission due to the recent reviews that were granted for this property, as well as the proposed modifications along the front streetscape for the property. The petitioner has identified the major key areas for the landscape plan. With respect to the changes to the parkway, we have had our forestry department provide a preliminary look at the front. The plant material that's chosen does appear to be appropriate. The modifications really help to screen the garage doors and open up a directed view of the front of the house with the installation of an evergreen hedge. Our certified arborist on staff has also reviewed the landscape plan and is supportive of the overall plan for the property. With respect to the driveway, due to the zoning restrictions and the existing configuration of the driveway, the only modification that's shown is the way that you enter the motor court. That motor court actually exists today and will remain in the same configuration with this plan. No landscape lighting is proposed at this time. There is a condition of approval recommended that if landscape lighting is proposed in the future, that it also be brought back to the commission to make sure that the character of Lake Road and Spruce, this area, is preserved and maintained. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you. It's an opportunity for the commissioners to ask any questions of the petitioner. Do we have any?
The existing motor court is staying the same configuration. Is the surface changing?
The surface, I believe, and I was not here at the beginning of the project, so I believe the surface consisted of a pea gravel or some sort of Merrimack stone. So it will change from that. It won't be that. We're hoping that we're going to be doing some inlay of some cobblestone work on the perimeter and the center of the asphalt to break that up a little bit. But the homeowner doesn't feel that pea gravel is what she wants to maintain with.
Are there going to be any drainage issues because of the change in the motor court surface?
This proposed plan will be shown on a drainage and grading plan and presented to our engineers when it goes to the permitting process, but we don't anticipate there being any issues.
And were there any comments from any neighbors, especially about the new driveway cut?
To date, staff has not received any contacts regarding this request, but certainly there could be people in the audience this evening.
All right, any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question about the evergreen hedge in the front of the driveway court. How high is that going to be?
Well, installed, it'll be 7 to 8 feet when it's installed, and we'll get to a height of approximately 14 feet to 16 feet and be maintained at that elevation. That's our intent.
Okay.
The variety of arborvitaes are Techni,
Okay.
and the neighbor across the street has virtually
Yeah.
the exact same.
Yeah, he's definitely put something up. And now, are you having it that high because you don't want to see the house from the street, or you're just trying to hide the garage door, or you want a private court in front?
Yeah, the intent is to sort of soften the amount of hardscapes in the front with the drive, the way it currently is right now. Also to close the garage door, and also to focus our view center to the door, where I think that's really where.
You know, the house is coming out really nice, I think. You know, we
Yeah.
reviewed that a couple
I'm really
years ago.
surprised. This is the first time in 3 weeks I've been there, and it's really moving along well.
Yeah, I mean, the roof is actually, I think, coming out
Yeah.
elegantly, and it's close to the street and so forth, but,
Mhm.
you know, I think it's fine what you're doing, and it makes an intimate court. I'm just wondering, I don't know that you have to feel like you have to hide the house with something tall. I mean, there's a house, somewhat, I would say it's French as well, down Lake Road South,
Mhm.
a couple of streets, and I just can't remember the name of the street. I wish I could. And it's close to the road like this. And they don't hide the thing at all. I mean, you see it, but it's so well done and nicely presented that it just, I have to stop the car every time I go by. And I don't know that you feel like you have to do all kinds of hiding, you know, but
Well, on the left side, the intent is to hide a little bit. On the
Yeah.
right side, the intent is to create balance. Because it requires us to hide on the right, on the
Yeah,
left.
yeah.
We're trying to create that balance on the right. So,
Sure.
but we have maximized the amount of width on the driveway that we are allotted. So we've opened up, and we've shown on the plan that at its smallest point, I believe it's
Yeah.
16 feet. And we
Okay.
open as quick as we can to give us that grand entrance or appearance.
Sure,
We
sure.
have no intention or desire to hide the house. Actually, the landscape in the front of the house is very minimal, with the intent of showing off the house more.
Yeah, good. I think that's kind of a nice idea. Now, if these arborvitaes go in and you desire not that they become 14 feet tall,
Mhm.
can you pleach? I mean, not pleach, but can you just cut those off and maintain them as a hedge, or do they require the unrestricted vertical growth?
No, we can maintain them as a hedge with the proper pruning techniques, and we can retard their growth substantially during the course of that
Yeah.
time to really slow it down over the course of the first 10 years. But with proper pruning, we can get quite a good life expectancy out of those plants, maintaining them at 12 feet, 14 feet
Yeah,
maximum, if
All right.
that's.
And that's what you guys want to do, so. Okay.
Yeah, we're not intending, because it's not a two-story house and it's not an ominous house, we don't want, from a scale perspective, to make those arborvitaes too large. However, our only other choice are really Hicks yews. Now, we are using Hicks yews on the side of the home here and putting in some red buds along that end to give us a softer, wispier perspective and a nicer view to the home coming down the road on spruce. But Hicks yews will only get us about 6 feet in height, and we feel that's too short
Okay,
to screen the doors.
sure. Well, I like it, and I think it's coming out quite nicely. I think it turned out to be a good petition. That's all my questions.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
In the rear yard, and this may well apply to the front, but let's talk about the rear. You have this very crisp geometric form with the two half circles separated in geometry and so on.
Correct.
The question is, are you anticipating or proposing some kind of an edging to establish that form, or is that strictly to be accomplished with the landscape materials?
Yeah, the edging would occur through manipulation, spade edging, probably 3 to 4 times a year during regular maintenance visits. So we're not looking at applying a steel edge to it or a plastic edging. All of our edging on all of our properties that are maintained are done through steel edging, approximately a 3-inch vertical spaded edge with a 45-degree roll. And it's a clean, neat way to manage it. So that's what our intent is there.
Okay, any other questions? Now's the opportunity for the public to ask any questions or provide any input, if there is any. And I see none, so we can deliberate. There we go. I got 2 likes. I see what you're saying, Guy. I like the concept of being able to peek a little bit more at this house as you go by, and you know your view is from 3 feet off the ground as you're driving by in a car mostly. So probably the arborvitae is overkill. I think the reaction to it is when you across the street there's those tall. There might be more than 14 feet.
Yeah, those plants are
Yeah.
getting close to 20 feet in elevation.
Yeah, those are quite large. They're a little imposing actually when you walk down the sidewalk.
Exactly. From a scale perspective on
Yeah.
a single-story home like this,
Yeah.
it's not going to scale properly. So
Yeah.
we do have to manage that plant
Yeah.
substantially lower than what the neighbor is across the street.
Good. Any other comments, deliberations? I'll ask for a
I
motion.
think it looks very nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
I'd move to approve the petition based on findings in staff report and subject to the conditions of approval there.
All right, the motion's been made by Commissioner Ransom. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Berg. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that one passes unanimously. Good luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was nice to meet you.
All right, our next petition is a request for a certificate of appropriateness approving an addition with a building scale variance at 990 North Sheridan Road. And I'll ask the commissioners if there's any ex parte conflict, and I see none. If you have one, we have to retire the agenda.
Hi.
Hi, go ahead.
My name is Laura Sargent with Northworks Architects and Planners. We were hired by Marty and Caroline Masterson to do a renovation addition at their house on 990 North Sheridan Road. Go to the next one. It's an existing single-family home located just north of Winter Club. It's set back from Sheridan Road, and as you can see, highly vegetated around the perimeter. It's rather difficult to see from Sheridan Road itself. Next slide. The existing house was built in 1974. It's a lime-washed brick, double-hung windows, hip roof with wood shingle, and in 1984, the lower picture, you can see the sun porch that was added. It doesn't meet either the style or the scale of the existing house. Next slide. This is another picture from the north showing just standard details of the house, lime-washed brick, double-hung windows, some brick detail at the corners, hip roof, wood shingle. Next slide. It's from the northwest, showing the sun porch that was added in 1984. Again, showing the details, the scale, and the style of the sun porch does not really relate to the existing house at all. Next picture. Just another view of the back of the house, showing the sun porch added in 1984. Next slide. This is the proposed site plan, also showing the demolition. The L-shaped portion is the existing sun porch that we're planning on removing, or we're proposing to remove. And then the shaded area is the smaller addition that we're putting in its place. It's basically like a small breakfast bay, glass enclosure. So we're proposing to reduce the actual overage on the site currently. And then, let's see, smaller scale. The next slide. This is showing a demolition plan. The majority of the work we're doing is actually interior renovation. As I mentioned, one of the exterior renovations we are doing is removing the sun porch. We're also altering the rear elevation and the front elevation, removing some windows to relate better to the new addition, removing the front door that's currently set back from the front facade. It's a wood door that doesn't, again, stylistically really relate to the existing house. Next slide. This is the second floor demolition plan showing
up in the right-hand corner, we'll remove a portion of the wall and an existing window to put in some French doors to access the new addition balcony. Next slide. Here we have the proposed plans. In the top right corner is the first floor proposed plan. You can see the breakfast bay we're proposing in place of the current sun porch. To the left of that, you have a proposed pergola. Both the addition and the pergola column and structure will be painted white. We are proposing to relocate the existing chimney that's currently in the center of the house to the east side of the house in the top right corner. And then again, the proposed front entry that we are proposing to bring the front door flush to the existing front elevation. The second floor plan in the lower left-hand corner, you see the French doors that we're proposing to access the balcony that's on top of the proposed breakfast bay addition. Next slide. These are the existing elevations. At the top, you have the front elevation showing the existing wood door and brick surround that we feel does not complement the existing style of the existing home. And at the bottom, you have the rear elevation showing the sun porch that, again, does not meet proportionally scale or style to relate to the rest of the house. Next. These are, again, existing elevations showing the scale. Does not relate to the house of the sun porch that we're proposing to remove. Next. And here we have the proposed elevations. At the top, you have the front elevation with a new wood door, 2 side lights, and a limestone surround, replacing the brick surround. Again, we pulled the door flush with the front of the facade. And at the bottom, you have the rear elevation showing the breakfast bay to the left with a wood railing on top, the 2 French doors accessing the balcony, and the pergola that extends across the back of the house helps create a rhythm and some depth to that elevation. Next. Here we have the side view showing the proportion, how it relates so much better in scale and stylistically to the rest of the house. Next slide. This is an existing photo of the rear that you saw before, and we put together a proposed sketch rendering, next slide, to show the planned improvements. So again, the goal here is to create something, reducing the bulk, first of all, from the existing, since we're already over, but also creating something that is more balanced, proportional, and architecturally pleasing and complementary of the existing residence.
All right, thank you. Do we have a staff report?
Thank you, Chairman Peretz. This house is within the historic district, but it's not a significant historic house. It was built in the 70s. There was an addition, as was noted, in the 1980s, and that addition is what's being proposed for demolition. There are positive findings in the staff report with respect to the partial demolition, given the fact that the demolition is not original to the house, nor does it contribute to the architectural integrity of the structure. One thing that I would like to touch on is the building scale variance that is requested. As the existing house stands, the structure is over the permitted bulk. With the demolition and the replacement addition, the home is 418 square feet less than what's there now, but it still requires a building scale variance. As proposed, the requested variance is for 11.3% over the permitted bulk. The building scale and environment ordinance requires that the architectural standards be met for a construction project, as well as one additional standard in order to support or consider a building scale variance. In this case, the architecture is appropriate and meets the standards in the ordinance, and also the remaining 4 standards are also met with this request. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I don't think there are any unique conditions of approval, but we are recommending approval of the project.
All right, thank you. Any questions of either the petitioner or the staff from the commissioners? I have one.
Okay.
On the front door, could you go back to your new front door elevation?
The proposed front elevation.
Yeah, if you can find that. Is there, I don't suppose there's a way to blow up just the front door area. I'm really testing you now. Yeah, there you go. Bring that front door. Let's see just the front door and the window to the next to it. Bring it up a little bit. So I think what you're doing here is you're removing like a portal kind of brick surround around where the door goes back.
Yes.
And there is, so I'm just curious about the relationship of the head of the window with the head of the door, and whether that's perfectly resolved or whether this is just a little diagrammatic at this time, or what do you?
Because of the different radius?
I'm not sure.
to the
Something
arch,
about
or-
it just caught my eye.
Okay. We could take another look at that. I think there are some restraints as far as it's the floor, the dotted line is the floor level.
Yeah,
of the
yeah, I
second
think the floor is going to be where it's at. Actually, I mean, I think it's improvement. I do see what you're trying to accomplish with the front door. I like it better than the existing front door. Something about it, just, Guy, maybe you have a thought on this, just it's the heads of the 2 window versus the head of the door just, you know, seemed like it was some kind of an odd relationship to me, and I don't know why. But otherwise, I don't really have any big issues with it. I think the back of the house is a big improvement and will look great. I didn't have any other questions for the petitioner on that.
Maybe I have a question, if I could. I look at the existing elevation again.
Okay.
So you're reconfiguring back from, that was pretty good, whatever you had just a second ago? The drawing, actually, you had it up. And if you could.
The existing front elevation. I
Yeah,
think is
that's
what
it.
you
If
want
you
to
just
see.
blow that one up again.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good one to just talk to. As long as Kurt brought it up, we might as well just stay on it till till we identify our. Because I think you're on to something by addressing it. Because right now it doesn't look like it's very French, if I can say this is sort of a French-style home, right?
Mm-hmm.
It sort of looks like it might even be a kind of Victorian, you know, in some odd sense. So that, I think, is probably a good good instinct of you to try to alter that. I think what happens with the proposed, though, is that you're dropping the top of those arcuated bricks, or actually of your limestone, lower than the bricks on the window. So that's creating sort of an odd man out. If anything, probably wants to be about the same, and maybe that would be something you might want to look at, is matching that, and that'll create a little more height to it and maybe resolve it better.
You're saying so that the arch isn't so flat and that it.
No, it's actually
resembles more-
not the flatness of it, it's the relative height. You know,
To the
now
windows.
now it's above the window, and the door is the most important, you know, element there on the front of
Oh,
the
I see
house.
what you're saying.
In the new elevation, the door's got a lower, the scale just seems somehow.
It might even be, if you stay with that opening as high as it is, and just take your segmental arch that you have right now in the windows, and just kind of massage that same arcuated radius on there and see what you get. Did you try that? Do you recall if that happened?
We have not tried that yet, but we will definitely take
It
a
might
look
be
at
worth
it.
a look. Is that what you're sort of feeling?
Yeah,
As a
just, you know, I don't have a solution, I just have
yeah.
a,
It's not quite there yet, as I think maybe
Sure.
what Kurt and I
Okay.
are both suggesting.
yeah. But, you know, this is the kind of stuff we love, because it means we're working on a nuance of the plan, and that's usually a good sign. And I said that in the past before, so.
Okay.
Any other questions for the petitioner? I see no other questions. I'll ask if there's any public input. And we have no public input, so now we can deliberate, if you would like to deliberate more about that guy.
Well,
Or not.
I'm wondering if staff would be comfortable maybe working a little bit with the petitioner, and if the petitioner feels that it might be beneficial to take a couple more passes at that entry, because everything else, I like all that I see on the petition, and I think just in an effort to sort of help you, which is what we try to do here, maybe take another try at that front archway. Maybe you can make it even better.
I agree. I think if the staff feels comfortable with the latitude, you know, review that, I'm comfortable giving it to them, because I think they're close. You know, I think it's just worth a second glance at that.
Okay.
We can certainly work with the petitioner with respect to the height of the door opening, as well as the arc above the door.
Okay. Any other deliberations? Guy, I'm going to ask for a motion on that.
Well, I would make a motion that we approve the petition as submitted with the condition. I don't want to make it sound too, demanding, but with the opportunity for you to work with our fine staff as a resource to further refine the archway, which you're already so astutely addressing.
Yes, we would love to work with
And
them
any
on
of the
that.
other conditions that may be in the petition as far as landscaping and et cetera are
All right.
concerned.
The-
And in that regard, I'm in support of the variance on the square footage overage.
All right, the motion's been made. Have you captured that motion? I will ask before I move to, motion's been made by Commissioner Berg. Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That passes unanimously. Good luck.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
That was Commissioner Moyer who seconded that for you. All right. Our next petition is a request for certificate of appropriateness approving an addition to the existing residence and new fences, gates, and patios as part of an overall landscape plan at 333 East Woodland Road. And I'll ask if there's any ex parte conflict on this. And I see none, so please proceed.
Good evening. I'm Paul Sanka. I'm with Sank Architects. I'll be giving you a brief synopsis of what we're doing with the addition. I have the owner here with me, Mr. Paul Daniel, and Dan Dalzell, his landscape architect, who will go through the landscape, the hardscape, the fence, and so forth. So I'll get started here with the addition and the chimney that we're proposing on the southeast end of the property. So the first slide that I have up before you here is just the overall property plan, just to give you a general location of where the addition is that we're talking about, which is located, as I said earlier, at the southeast corner of the existing residence, which is directly adjacent to an existing porch that's on the back of the property over here. This is the plan, and then this is oriented now so that north is up. It's a little different from that site plan we just looked at, just to give you a sense of location here. You need to see if you can't hear me. Okay. So, in general, that's where our addition for the powder room and mud room is located, at the southeast corner of the building. Along with that, we have proposed a fireplace inside the family room. The general purpose for this space is just proximity. This is going to be the main area for the family to relax at the end of the day and so forth. And the closest bathroom in this house is probably about 80 to 90 feet away across the house over by the front foyer. So this kind of became kind of a pragmatic necessity in the minds of the owner. So we picked this location. It seemed like a logical one to add this type of addition. It's very small. It's only, I believe the number is about 60 square feet in size to accommodate what they're doing. As I mentioned, we went right next to the existing porch that's on the back of the house here. The intention and the thought there was just continue the porch that's there and blend the addition in with what the existing architecture of the house that's currently there. It actually looks like, in my opinion, that this porch should have been continued when they built it. I'm not sure when this actually took place. This, to me, looks like this was probably an addition somewhere along the line. I know that this end of the house, we believe, was a garage at one time or another when we started doing the demolition and so forth in there. It looks like this space actually has been converted several times into different uses, through the history of the property. So, again, this is the opposite corner there. That basically what we're doing with our addition is filling in, following the existing pitch of that roof, mimicking all the detailing of the colonial revival with what we're doing, just to blend it in with the existing architecture of the house. This is the existing east elevation where the fireplace is proposed. Now we're going to remove that upper window there and then put the stack in there. This is, I just put this picture in here. This is the two existing chimney stacks that are kind of on the west end of the property. And this is what we were mimicking with the new stylized fireplaces that we're putting in over there on the east end of the property. So it's going to kind of match in the brick color as well as the way that the termination of the fireplace was done with limestone. It looks like about a 4-inch limestone cap up there and a clay tile flue. And basically we're going to put some limestone shoulders to, again, mimic what was on one of the other fireplaces over there. And here you can see our addition that comes into play to fill in the end of the porch there. Again, it's just a continuation. We've maintained the spacing of the pilasters and created a rhythm that just kind of follows that porch as it works its way along from west to east. And then this is the proposed east elevation, which is, again, very similar to what's actually there right now, other than filling in the void of the corner of the porch that's currently missing. Your packet shows this as a west elevation. That's a typo, so if anybody's, I'm sure, picked up on that. I just threw a roof plan in here again to show you that this is just a continuation of that shed roof that's actually already there. This is all going to, that shaded area indicates our new roof. The existing roof is directly to the west of it there, and the intention is just to continue that through all as one plane. That's not going to read as two different planes. In general, we're trying to make sure that this blended with the existing architecture of the house so that it looked like it was actually always intended to be there. This would be, in my opinion, a logical way, had they done it from the beginning, to accommodate that type of space outside the parameters of the box that's there already. As I mentioned earlier, this is part of our proposal. I think what we'll do, if you want, is we'll let the landscape architect speak to the landscape design that he has intended, along with the fence and hardscape and so forth, and then we can circle back if you have any other questions. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dan.
Thank you, Paul. Good evening. Hi, I'm Dan Delzo with 3D Design Studio, and I'm both happy, proud, and delighted to be here before you on behalf of this project. I believe you all have our submittal packets. I apologize, I don't have a slide, but I'd like to talk a brief recap of the history of the project. When we first came on, we looked at the existing property and the historical context, and we wanted to recreate or recapture the imagery of the property from before, because over the years it's been compromised by the growth of some hazardous materials, some uninvited trees, and some diseased and damaged trees were hazardous. We prepared a plan, submitted to the village, to the city, I'm sorry, met with the arborist and received permits for the removals that were done. Then we submitted our development plans, and we are here tonight to go over the elements that are contained within your plan. We want to talk primarily to the front of the house tonight. There are a couple of items on the staff report that I want to address right away. We've had conferences as this process has evolved. There's been discussion about the idea of having a circle drive. I believe at this point we are deciding that that is not going to go forward. I have a plan that I'd love to hand out to you that shows that drive removed. The other thing, the other item in the staff report was the interest in reforesting the eastern edge of the property. I also have some digital image renderings that show a existing and a proposed.
Oh, I see.
Okay. So that's just the overall site plan with an enlargement showing the drive removed, and then the cloud, revision cloud shows additional trees being proposed. Here is the existing today, and then here's the image of adding the trees, fence. However, the fence does not have the columns. We will just have, we've got an example or sample of fence material, but I use some fall color to make it clearer as to what is new plant material. But that resembles what would be new red maple and red oak, again using native plant material to recapture the aesthetic of the original property. Then you can see along the fence there's a wide variety of arrays of different flowering shrubs and perennials that would be orchestrated for bloom sequence throughout the spring, summer, and fall to keep color going throughout. And up around the front, we want to accent the architecture with a more structured foundation of boxwoods with, again, elegant arrays of perennials and flowering shrubs. So I'd like to stop right there and seek your input because, like I say, to summarize, we're going with the existing drive, a fence with just a stone column to hold up the gate, to operate the gate, no circle drive, and adding the forestation requested on the east side of the property.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have a staff report?
Thank you, Chairman Peretz. This project has many parts, and if you've been by the house, certainly it's received some much-needed attention as the new owners have stepped in. There's been a lot of work done on the site so far. This is a case where the work on the site did get a little bit out of sequence. Our city arborist, as was noted, did work on the site. Perhaps didn't ask the right questions, and as a result, some tree removal was authorized before we brought a plan in front of you. Ordinarily, we wouldn't do that. It was a miscommunication on the city's part. So the tree removal did occur in advance of you seeing this project, and I apologize for that. Having said that, our city arborist did look at the trees on the site carefully, and overall felt that there were many trees in decline on the property, some in hazardous condition, and none significant. So he does stand by the removals that were done as being appropriate and needed as part of the new owner coming in and really spending a lot of effort on this property. With respect to this new plan, we haven't seen it other than just now. It does appear to address many of the issues that we raised. I think it still is important because there's a lot on this plan. For us to take the time, go back and look through it, I think removal of the second curb cut, although I think there probably was a way to make that work, I think removal of the second curb cut is a positive. This is a property that has a very prominent streetscape on Woodland Road. And it's in an area where there's a transition from the smaller lots to the west to the larger lots to the east. And as you go by the front of this property, you really do get into the part of Woodland Road that is quite wooded. So we want to make sure that particularly that northeast corner of the property is being replanted with appropriate trees and trees that will begin to reestablish that wooded look, while recognizing that the eastern part of the property is going to provide more open and some views into the property. So I certainly appreciate the effort, appreciate the revision, but I do think it still is worthwhile to have our arborists go back and walk the site and just confirm that this plan is workable. We did hear concerns from some neighbors. You have some correspondence in front of you. And I think more than anything, people saw this plan and saw a lot going on and wanted to make sure they understood the drainage, they understood any further tree removal, understood the hardscape, understood any possible grade changes, just to be clear that we all knew what was going to happen on the property.
Yep.
So I do still recommend that this piece of the petition be continued. However, with respect to the addition, Mr. Senka gave you a very comprehensive overview of that. It is a very small addition. It does seem to fill in a void there at the east end of the porch. With the addition, this house is still under the allowable square footage. So we do recommend that you move that part of this petition forward and allow us to just do some final work on the landscaping.
All
I would
right.
be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Sure, I'll ask you a question. Do you have any comments?
Thank you very much. And I appreciate your comments. A couple of things. First of all, with respect to the front yard and the complexity of the plan, the only thing that has changed from the submitted plan is the removal of that half of the driveway and adding the 6 trees. Nothing else changed with respect to anything that we've submitted that staff's already had a chance to review. With respect to the grades and the drainage, and we're actually not looking to the back right now, but I will tell you there is currently storm sewer throughout. There's inlets throughout the property, and we've televised a couple of them. They work. There's no intent to change grade that wouldn't actually still contribute to the existing storm sewer. So that's why we would like the ability to be able to proceed on the front, because, like I say, we've addressed everything that you've requested, made changes to be responsive and reactive and show that we've heard you and we want to be good neighbors.
And so I do have some questions about the scope of the work then. The driveway that's shown on the front of the house now, is that the existing location of the current driveway?
Yes, sir.
So are you changing the surface of that, or what's the?
No, it's currently a brick paver and will remain as such.
Okay. So there's no work to that the west side of the front of the house with the driveway that goes to the
That's
motor court?
correct.
And so the work that you're discussing at the front of the house is the planting work?
Yeah, it's basically putting a gate, a fence, and all the landscaping.
I see. Okay. Any other questions for the staff or the petitioner?
On just the front aspect of it?
Actually, I think, it's an opportunity for us to ask questions about the whole submittal, so
Sure.
on either or, if you'd like.
Because there's, as staff pointed out, there's a lot of other elements that petitioner hasn't presented to us. I'm trying to get a handle on what the petitioner is seeking right now. I mean, there's putting greens and there's basketball courts and there's.
Well, we recognize that, and I want to point.
There's other things that we haven't heard anything about.
Well, I want to point out that the submittal, we made a second submittal based on my conversation with Megan that the basketball court has been removed, and the submittal that you should have.
This middle that we already have in our packet.
The latest drawing we had still do show the basketball court. I think that's a minor piece because you've already said that's going to be removed.
Yeah, it's on.
Minor, major, I was just making a point that there's a bunch of elements that I mean,
I think so,
you know, just reviewing the staff report and what I received, you know, we're talking about bridge element, parking space element, patio element, this putting green I heard about, the gates, the plantings, the trees. You know, I know some of it's been addressed and some of it's been removed, but I'm just wondering, are we looking at all that right now, or is the petitioner asking us to look at those things at this point? Throw it out there to anybody.
Well, yes, I believe if, try not to muddy the waters.
Yeah.
No, that's okay.
We're a little
like making
informal.
sausage
It's
sometimes,
August.
so go
It's
right
August,
ahead.
so we've slipped out of our tie already. And so let me just paint the picture a little fuller with a question. So we've got before us a recommendation from our staff on the building addition, which is not controversial in my mind, and I don't think it's controversial in any of the petitioners' minds or the commissioners' minds. We have site improvements that is controversial. We've got comments from neighbors. I'm sure when I ask for public input, we might get some. And so we've got a staff recommendation to table that part of it and let them fully vet that. What we would like to know, we understand that you'd like to move forward. We appreciate that. And so we're trying to understand whether or not there's a portion of the site work that makes sense for us to go ahead and allow to proceed, and we're going to have a question for our staff along those lines quite shortly. So it's an opportunity for you to kind of give us, a sense of whether or not that's fully baked yet in your mind, or whether that would open up a bunch of questions. And I think, given the history of this, we're a little leery of providing too much latitude here, because there's a history of moving the ball down the field, and I'm not saying it was anybody's fault, but it just happened, and so now we're a little bit wary of allowing that to happen again. So that's kind of the stage that we're being put up against, and we're trying to understand how we can best help, but not.
If your motion, if I may suggest, if it was to table everything from the north face of the house, there's the front of the house, front elevation, backwards. We'll develop more of the backyard, but everything forward to the street, like I say, the only change we made was we've eliminated the drive, which was controversial, and we've added native planting, wooded planting on the east side as requested.
Okay, so let's hold it there at that for the question to the petitioner. I think it's an opportunity now for the public, if there's any.
You know what?
You want another one?
Yeah,
Go
I've
ahead.
got
Sure.
a question, and it's about the fence along the street.
Yes.
And maybe this is for you, or maybe it's for the owner and the architect, and that I'm just wondering, I know you have to have a fence back at the pool, and you want to have a gate at the driveway, correct? Is that?
Yes.
I'm wondering, why do you want the fence at the street? I mean, one of the things about this house that's so stunning to me is that it's your first big house as you go down Woodland, and it has, I think, a lot of integrity as far as its detailing and massing goes. It's I think, a really nice kind of a little flagship that you go by before you get into and it is more wooded further down, but I'm just wondering, with that landscape rolling in, the minute you put this fence up, which I'm not quite sure I know what it looks like yet either. That's another concern I have. I'm just wondering why you're putting that up, if you're going to be inviting all these views in and introducing all this floriferous material. I just wonder if that's an aesthetically wise choice, if that's going to be enhancing your property or detracting from it. And then, of course, because it's the owner's property, that he has the right to make those decisions, but because it's so close to the street, in this village, in this city, those become kind of maybe areas where we'd like to discuss things a little more in public forums. So I'm not so sure I think that's a plus. I like a lot of these estates that are set back from the road, that are still visible from the road. There might be some gate posts and a gate, which is left open most of the time, and those are sort of accents that kind of frame the house and are complementary. And they won't even have a fence between the piers, you know, especially if they have this horseshoe driveway. And I'm just curious, what's the reasoning for the fence?
Well, I would love to have Paul talk. I mean, part of the reason is, as an architectural accent, we actually have a piece of the fence. I tried to replicate that in the image, and I apologize if there's a stone column there. That was my mistake. But would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, the reason on the fencing, if you go directly north across the street from our property, there is a fence around the whole property. We also have some dogs that we currently have invisible fence, and we plan to put invisible fence in again. But if I could gate it and have that communicated, I could actually utilize the 2.15 acres that I have, and have my 12-year-old ride his bicycle, do his whatever he wants to do in the yard, and be fully committed to staying inside that, and that the balls don't roll out into the street, and dogs don't run out and go and get into that situation. And it's also the advice of the architect that if we do it correctly, and we do have a sample of the fence, we do have a sample of the gate, and we do have a sample of that it is an enhancement from the curb appeal, especially if you then bring in the correct species of trees and treat it, and it can be a nice, our whole goal from the get-go when we bought the property was to enhance it. And so that's kind of our thoughts on the fence.
And could you just, as long as we're asking questions, and I should have you introduce yourself.
I'm sorry, I'm Paul Daniel.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I figured that out, but I know that. What about the fence for the rear of the property? I know we're talking about but I'm asking questions about everything. What's your intentions on the rear?
Well, it's funny because when we bought the property and we had it surveyed and we asked the realtors, they communicated to us that was not our fence. that was our owners to the east, and our owners to the west, and our owners to the south.
I see.
And now I've seen comments about the fence. I'm less than enamored with the fence that I proudly now have been communicated that I own.
I got it.
So I would love to, make sure that we replace boards and we bring it to a point of making it workable. And I'm fully prepared to, sit and discuss that.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it. Any other questions?
So obviously the gate then, or the fence in that then would be from the east side to the west side, and then the north side would actually then communicate with all the fence that I own. Okay.
Well, just to get a little more staff input, you heard the petitioner's comments that at least from the front of the house forward, they've addressed all the city's concerns, and now they believe that they've done everything that the city wants done or was suggesting be done. Is that the way staff sees it? And is it possible to approve this piecemeal and let them start on something, or is that not something that would be?
From the staff perspective, the streetscape landscape really is the most important piece. The rear yard is less important. We do want to look at the rear yard to make sure there are nothing happening that will create negative impacts with respect to drainage on neighboring properties. But from an aesthetic standpoint, from a really looking at the species, the whole streetscape, the whole front yard from the front of the house north to the street really is critical. And I really feel that it's very important to have our arborist take a look at this. He's been on the site a number of times. He is familiar with what the site was before the trees were removed. I also think we do have this rendering that was provided tonight, but it doesn't appear to be correct. I think the owner does have a right to put a fence along the front property line or step back from the front property line, but we really need to understand what that fence is and how that will work with the landscaping and have an accurate rendering. So the staff recommendation would still be to give us some more time just to finalize this landscape plan, to really understand completely what's going on and bring this piece back to you. I think this is a very important streetscape.
Okay. I'll ask if there's any public input on this item. Sure.
There's just one, and I agree wholeheartedly there, but what has been created is there's a lot of open space now.
Yeah.
That actually has been clearly communicated of what we are going to put back in that. If you don't want to have us start on the fence and don't start on the gate, I'm okay with that. But I really would like to take those areas where there was diseased trees and there's groupings and all you have now is mud, and really try to freshen that up, because we're in a perfect growing period right now where I can get stuff in. And if we wait till the end of September, now we're waiting until, now I'm springtime.
Yeah.
And that's not really going to enhance the curb appeal of a property that we're trying to enhance.
You know, I appreciate that, and I think the other commissioners appreciate that. But it seems like this petition got ahead of itself with removal of trees and plants before it should have occurred. And again, as the chair said, you know, it's not here to blame anybody that, you know, one thing happened or another thing didn't happen. But it sounds to me from the city staff is that they need to go out there and look exactly what those plantings are going to be to.
I'd like to hear the. I'd like to. Excuse me.
We submitted that in time.
Excuse me.
We've had this plan.
I'd like to hear from the public. That's the part of the meeting that we're on. We still have a deliberation section, and we can ask more questions. But I'm keen to understand what the public concerns are, and appreciate that people have come out tonight to voice some concerns. And I wouldn't take off the table the opportunity to give the arborist some latitude with respect to putting some things back in that the staff recommends go in with respect to non-controversial items. So we could talk about that still. If there's a particular tree or trees or 3 trees or I don't know what it is, we you know, if there's a reason why we could talk about that. But let's find out what the public has to say, and then let's go from there. So. Is there any public comment? Thank you. Please introduce yourself.
There's at least one. My name is Rami Lopat. I live at 410 East Woodland Road. Welcome to our neighborhood.
Thank you.
The staff report's conclusion to require the petitioner and his landscape architect to revise the landscape plan to reestablish a wooded character along the streetscape of Woodland Road, especially with deciduous trees that will someday be heritage trees of over 25 inches in diameter, is well considered. In addition, we're very pleased that the homeowner will replace the parkway trees on an 1-4-inch basis to mitigate the fact that the city code's removal criteria were not honored for whatever reason. Streetscape renderings are an excellent idea, along with more detailed plans showing the location of fencing and a gate. We haven't had the opportunity to see any of these new plans, so I'd appreciate that. Drainage, flagpole, a new curb cut for an additional driveway. That was in a lot of, several of our neighbors were concerned about that because of the lights coming across that street. So they'll be relieved. Anyway, these requirements will help put the woodland back on Woodland Road. The fence across the street also is really, you know, I'm there every day. It's very well hidden with shrubbery. So I don't know what the plans are, but it's almost invisible in a way because there's such a lot of hedging around it. At the risk of being presumptuous about the materials the landscape designer might use to achieve his aim for his client, we ask that perhaps they consider less use of blue spruce along the roadway and more use of the color green for the purpose of blending in with the woods along Woodland Road. The blue spruce, I think I counted 14 planned for the yard, so that's pretty much the new dominant tree in that yard. A specimen tree was promised to replace a 16-inch mulberry that came down. We wonder if something with a little more year-round appeal than a crabapple could be used as that specimen tree. That said, the rest of my comments actually relate to the larger issues that this case brings up. It points actually to the need for a comprehensive tightening of our city's tree ordinance. It's time to revisit it. In this instance, by our count, there was some 75 trees in just the front yard of the house. By my eyeball count, there are now fewer than 25. As staff acknowledges, there is something wrong when 35 trees can be removed from a front yard without city knowledge or permitting. I think that such cutting of trees smaller than 10 inches should not have to be tied with, quote, other exterior work on the property for your commission to perform a comprehensive review. While Ms. Cerniak says that she has taken strengths to strengthen that review process, and I'm really happy about that, we ask that you put the tree ordinance and the permit application on your agenda and go through it carefully for consistency with the goals of historic preservation of streetscapes. For example, there's no question on that permit application that asks how many total trees will be removed from the front yard. There's no question. But let's say there was such a question. Can't we require a phasing of removals so that the streetscape is not robbed of all its trees at once? As to the subject of ash trees, I would like to know which city commission would review and create a policy to save them before the emerald ash borer kills them. Since I don't know, I ask your commission to take the lead in seeking a review of our city policy regarding inoculation against the emerald ash borer. Again, this petition is a good example of how we could improve the process. The petition asked for 6 ash trees, ranging from 13 to 17 inches in diameter, to be cut down in the front yard. In each case, the contractor stated the trees were dying, diseased, or simply ash borer. Not true. And saying that ash borers are present when they are not is like crying fire in a movie theater, given the plague that the borer has created in this country. If there is ash borer in any neighborhood, the city's ordinance must call for neighbors to be notified. The staff report regarding 333 East Woodland states the condition and health of each ash tree was evaluated by the city arborist. As a matter of practice, the city does not give blanket approvals to removal of ash trees, and where appropriate, encourages the treatment of such trees. I would ask that this commission define what the words "where appropriate" is defined, and why we should not consider it appropriate to treat all of our ash trees. I encourage the city to develop a brochure to hand to each and every homeowner, as well as a publicity campaign to inoculate against the borer. This is a matter of good forestry practice and dollars and cents. It may have cost $400 or more to remove a 17-inch tree. That same tree could have been inoculated against the insect for 2 years for a cost of about $200 and about 5 minutes of time. Before removal, the staff could also have suggested pruning, feeding of the mature trees, and certainly thinning, all of which are excellent forestry practices that would have preserved our historic streetscape. Last, I ask that the staff report be amended to remove the last sentence of the second paragraph on page 2, because it is a judgment that runs counter to why we have a tree and landscape preservation ordinance in the first place. I understand probably what the reason was for adding that sentence. It reads, the trees on the site that were removed were not significant and either due to age or level of care in the past were beyond the time when they offered aesthetic enhancement over the long term to the property or to the streetscape. Well, we could say that about just about every big tree in Lake Forest. They are old and they haven't had much care. But their survival is what makes Lake Forest so beautiful. I hope this commission will help find more ways to encourage our staff and our homeowners to preserve those mature trees, because they absolutely do offer aesthetic enhancement over the long term to Lake Forest. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? And I see none, so now is an opportunity for us to deliberate. Thanks for the comments on the tree ordinance. I think, you know, I have to say, we rely quite heavily on our staff, not only for the HPC review, but the rest of the city staff as well, building inspectors and arborists, et cetera, et cetera. We asked the question to Kathy about how this happened. She explained it in her report. And I don't think that it was by design that, you know, so we could change the ordinance, change the requirements, and if it was a failure of the staff or the personnel to understand the situation, it wouldn't make it much better. So, you know, in the case of what we're here today to do, the Historic Preservation Commission, you know, we review the situation when there's a structure in the district that has elements around it, and we can only do that when it comes to us. So that didn't come to us. It probably should have, and changing the ordinance wouldn't have changed that. So at least I don't think so anyway. You know, I guess I would like to ask the staff another question, which is there any portion of a planting scheme? Yeah, I appreciate that it's August, but by the way, when is our September meeting?
September 27th,
Late
fourth
September.
Wednesday.
So, you know, September, October, those are planning months, I guess. I appreciate that that's almost 2 months from now. I'm struggling with whether or not there's a scheme out there that allows any kind of way to proceed with a portion of the work without coming back to the commission, and I'm worried of that. I think the staff continues to be worried of that, and so I'm not sure there's a way to cure that. I don't know what you guys think.
Well, that was my questions to the staff, and try to get a handle from them and the petitioner. You know, the staff feels adamant that they didn't have all the information, or they haven't had enough time to review in order to lend their support to this. You know, the petitioner disagrees and said they've given all the information that was required and made all the changes, you know, so.
Well, first of all, I'm in favor of the changes to the house. I think that's pretty easy, that those are actually going to be quite nice. And in general, I think the house looks like it's being upgraded and improved in a really nice manner. I really think the house is an asset to Woodland in that regard. It's very handsome, I think, and interesting. It's been interesting in the backyard as well for the development of some very fine gardens back there as a result of this. I have an issue with the fencing along the street, because right now I have like 3 different designs for it that are circulating. I've got the sheet that Paul handed out. There's the one that's drafted on the landscape plan, and then there's the rendering, which I'm told isn't really correct because the columns are going away. And that has a different design on it from the other one. So I need to see more on that. In fact, I'm wondering if there might be a way for the fence post to be a little bit more elegant than it shows here, but it doesn't seem to go with the house necessarily, but that's because it's a small CAD drawing. It looks like a hatch pattern for stone, not an idea of what the stone's really gonna look like. I think there's some stone in these retaining walls too that, I mean, maybe there's some kind of a consistency there that needs to be a little more developed. Because I really like the house a lot, and I'd like to see anything that goes in that front yard complemented. And so I'd like to see that. I'm not comfortable in approving the landscape plan if staff and the arborists need more time with it, so that's just where I am at with it. I'm not gonna go out and try to make any extra concessions. I think that's not working with staff on this. And I've been on these boards now for over 10 years, and staff has always done a really good job, and I see no reason not to give them their request in this matter here. So I think that kind of frames mine. I'm okay with the house, but I would like to see more information on the landscaping and staff to a level where they feel more comfortable.
Okay. Any other comments, Fred or Bill?
Well, I'm going to add, I'm likewise okay with the house and bathroom addition, the way it's being done. I think it works very nicely, and, very innocuous. Share the same comments that Commissioner Berg made about the fence. That is to say, the columns, which are going to go away, but we still have the gate, and maybe that the columns that are there for the gate if they're similar to what's shown on the rendering, I would be very concerned. Likewise, there's some rendering disparities in which column is the true column. We've got one that's trapezoidal and it almost appear to be triangulated, rotated in a diamond pattern. I'm not sure what. Anyway, and the word that Commissioner Berg used, exactly the word I wanted to use, was elegance. It seems to me that the gate, when it is designed, should be at least as elegant as the house, and not less than the house in terms of the quality, its quality, design quality. And I don't see anything as a forward reference, even though the columns may go away or we only have two left. I would say that's not elegant. And so we have, I think we've had other petitions where that was the only thing in the petition was a new gate. And a lot of time was spent with those Sheridan Road addresses and so on to make sure that what was being done was up to the quality of the house behind it. I think the same thing applies here.
We fully, may I speak?
Sure, one more time.
Sorry, I just wanted to say we fully agree, and if it pleases you, we would take the gate off the table.
Yeah, I think
just the fence, just the landscape in the front of the house.
Yeah, I think that we're going to have a hard time with that. I do appreciate the timing issues that the petitioner faces, but I'm not sure that we can cure that for him tonight. I'm going to ask for a motion. If you're prepared to make one, I think go ahead.
Okay. In terms you heard, we'll take the gate, we'll take the fence. There is an existing fence gate on the west part of the property, wrought iron, right now.
Yeah.
That we have electrified. It was a manual gate. We have electrified that now, so it will open and close. On the east side of the property, they had a chicken wire fence that communicated across from where the house is to the wooded fence. What I would like to do then, since we're going to talk about not being able to do anything in the front, for when we're moving in, I would like to then communicate the wrought iron fence that's already there and match it on that side and communicate it so that I would have a fenced-in completely backyard.
Backyard.
Because I would just be taking it from the east side of the house to the wooded fence, and there's already a wrought iron fence that is there from the west side of the house to that fence.
Can you just give us a quick pointer on where you're talking about?
Well,
and you want to do that because you're moving in?
Yeah.
Yeah. Show us where that is.
Drive in here, drive. It's where am I at?
This is
This is okay. So you come back here.
Wow.
It's right here.
We're just looking at the site.
Thank you.
Right now, that there's the existing gate is right in this area here. You're talking about coming off this corner.
Yeah.
right? Well, just
Matching.
Matching it, kind of go back. Now, you just want it to be a fence, you don't want it to be a gate necessarily to match that gate.
Well, what I would like to do is have we don't have to do a gate, because if we do it solid, then you can't get in and you can't get out. But we do have a gate that's already on the property, as you mentioned, on the west side.
So this is between the home and the property line to the
On my
west?
side, exactly.
Okay.
And I've got a sample of that gate. It's exactly the same gate that's there.
And a fence and gate in that location isn't something necessarily that the
I was just gonna
Historic
ask that.
Preservation Commission would need to
So that's something
weigh in
that
on.
staff
We could
could
work with you on a
probably-
We can work
permit
with you on
for
that.
a fence for the backyard.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, I have a question.
Sure.
Doesn't it change of location, I think, brings an issue? A gate that is on the, not presented as on the back portion of the property, may not be appropriate to be on the front of the property in terms of it's now visible to.
No, that other one's already visible. The one that Paul pointed out there is all visible. It's a 8-foot gate that's there, and we just electrified it, so now that it's an opener, we can get in and back.
You guys lock it at night. I was there late and the guy was leaving and he shut it.
Well, it's actually, it's shut.
Yeah.
And then I would like to take that wrought iron, like I said, I've got a sample of it, and then just do the east part of it.
You want to just secure the backyard.
Exactly.
That's.
I mean, I think that.
Is it possible for us to have staff handle that independently?
I think staff
of
is
it?
saying that
Okay.
that's not a problem for them to do.
Sure.
So that's not something that we have to act upon if you can do that. You just need permission from the staff for
The
that.
fence at that location will have little to very minimal visibility from the street.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've done our best to butcher our parliamentary procedure tonight. We're really trying to work with you. We appreciate the investment you're making in the home. It's looking good, and there's a lot of work that's been done trying to accommodate you, but at the same time, it's very difficult for us not to support our staff on a streetscape recommendation. So I'm going to ask for the motion along the lines of the staff recommendation. And, you know, I just encourage you to work with them quickly. I think that what we've seen in the past is that if you can get far along the process with staff early in the process, by the time you get to us, everybody's just singing praises and loving it, and it gives you an opportunity to plan for it that way, because you can tell whether or not staff is liking your solution and that kind of thing. So that's about the best I can do. I will ask for that motion, so if someone wants to try that one.
Okay, I'd move to approve the petition regarding the addition in the rear of the house and construction of the new fireplace based on the findings in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval, and to continue the portion of the petition regarding the landscape and the elements involved therein to the next regularly scheduled meeting of the HPC.
So the motion's been made by Commissioner Ransom. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Berg. All in favor? Aye.
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 So the motion passes, and I wish you good luck with that. I appreciate you coming out tonight, and we're keenly interested to see what you'll submit with us. Hopefully we've been helpful tonight. All right. We have one last petition, I believe, and that is a request for a certificate of appropriateness approving new signage, awnings, and doors for Megan Winters at the store at 675 North Forest Avenue. Does anyone have any conflict on this? I see none, so we will ask for the presentation.
Good evening, commissioners, staff of the City of Lake Forest. My name is Megan Winters, and I'm here tonight with my business partner, Annette Carroll, to hopefully get your blessing and approval on the exciting changes we have in plan for our business at 675 Forest Avenue, the old Burmeister woodworking space. First of all, I want to thank the staff, because Annette and I would not be privileged enough to be here tonight if they hadn't allowed us space on the agenda. And that also brings me to thank you gentlemen for taking the extra time. I will try to be quick, quick, quick and get this off your agenda and hopefully on the approval docket as promptly and concisely as possible. As I said, I'm Megan Winters. This is my partner, Annette Carroll. We are starting a residential high-end design firm in Lake Forest. We're opening a retail concept which has my design studio on one side and a retail concept on the other. It will carry furniture and accessories, furniture designed by me and accessories brought in from Europe and other high-end design companies domestically. We're here tonight to talk about what hopefully will help make our space really beautiful. Because after all, we're in the image business. And we know everything inside will be gorgeous. We're investing a lot of time and money in millwork and carpet and fixtures and paint and wallpaper. And that we can control. We're here to hopefully get your blessing on some new awnings, some new signage, some new doors, and some planter boxes. So I thought I'd go through those one by one, and I am a bit of a fast talker. So if I get too fast, please slow me down. Otherwise, I'll just clip right along. Hopefully it's very straightforward. The first element of our proposal is to talk about the awnings. We took a lot of time and consideration to choose our location. I adore Howard Van Doren Shaw and the whole Market Square area. And to get this space was a real thrill for us. To have this building with the rhythm of his columns and the beauty of his architecture and this gem of a location. The only thing we'd like to change in relation to the awnings, we're keeping the overall horizontal consistency with our neighbor, and that he originally had, I believe, intended just above the lintel. We are changing the color slightly to make it a little bit more sophisticated in our mind, green and solid. I have a sample of that for you gentlemen tonight. And we're updating just a little bit, but hopefully in a very classic and tasteful fashion, the way the awning is fixed to the building. It will go into a mortar joint. It will not damage the bricks. It's just a little bit more high style, I guess, without being trendy or too out there. The size of the awnings is exactly the same width-wise as existing. And the other reason for our replacing the awnings is the awnings are old. The awnings, we believe, can look a lot better. So let me show you a sample of the material and the hardware that we propose. We were told that we should keep within the green color, which we're good with. So this would be the color. And we're manufacturing these holdings. So all I could do was give you like a knob pull. But this would be the color of actually the bracket that comes out and anchors into the building. It's just a very subtle, it's almost like an aged bronze color. And then my vision is that we have, if you look at the drawing, these little, almost very subtle, again, bronze finials or spheres. They just give it a little bit of detail, because after all, that's sort of, why we exist. So that's the awning. So that gives you, that picture up on the screen shows you the consistency all the way across. Our awnings are a little bit less deep, but they are visually, horizontally consistent all the way across. The signage. I really didn't want to put my name on the building at all, but I ended up being outvoted on that. So we are going to have the name on the valance. It's a smaller valance. It's 6 inches, and my name will be 4 inches. On the window, there will be an atelier. So when you look at the space, when you walk in the door, and I know you'll be frequent visitors, my studio will be on the left, where I'll do all my work with fabrics and wallpapers and paint and stuff. And then the retail portion will be on the right. So atelier, the French word for workroom, basically, will be on the left window in very small discrete letters in white. And then on the right-hand side will be maison, which means house or store. There will be no signage on the south window. We also have a window that's on the south. The next element that we really, really, really please love to update and change is the door. The doors were installed 28 years ago, but that was not the original. The original building was built as a young men's club. And as you can see from these photos, there were no doors. Well, not this photo, but the men's club didn't have doors, it had windows. And when it was renovated, the doors were added. And we actually found a picture of a door that had the mullions, or the lights. And if you go back to history wouldn't really have a plain glass door. So when I was designing the space visually, I looked around the adjacent buildings. Actually, next door at the Southgate Cafe, they have a 15-light wood. It's not metal. It will be very high quality feeling. A 15-light door. So we'd like to replace the doors with lighted doors that are consistent with the windows above our space, and also consistent with many of the adjacent buildings and millwork and doors around the Market Square area. The final element that we'd love to have outside our shop would be these zinc type planters. They are made of rust-proof cast aluminum. They're very large. We actually considered bringing one in tonight, but neither Annette nor I could schlep that baby in here. But these are some pictures. We'll have 3 in front of the windows, the trough planters on the right. They look very English or very French. And again, we're trying to communicate to our clientele that we have the taste and the sophistication and the elegance, and we're a complement to the Market Square area, and we're a bit of an elegant part of that 675 Forest Avenue space. So I think hopefully I've briefly summarized what we're here looking to get your approval on, and I'll also tell you that both Annette and I are very excited about our business in Lake Forest. We are business women. Annette is an MBA from the University of Chicago and worked for the largest benefits company internationally and worked her way up to the top of that. And I am an entrepreneur and started a packaging company and operated plants all over the world. So after we retired at our very young age of 25, we're here today to start our next journey and bring some design and hopefully some energy to downtown Lake Forest and Market Square and make it a beautiful addition to what Howard Van Doren Shaw had originally envisioned and bring some more people into Lake Forest to realize what a spectacular place it is to live and to work and to shop. So thank you very much for your time.
All
I'm
right.
open for questions.
Thank you. Well, let's get a staff report first, and then I'm sure we'll have some for you.
Thank you, Chairman Peretz. The Historic Preservation Commission carefully reviews signage requests that are changes to what's there now, such as this one. As was noted earlier by the petitioner, the building was designed by Howard Van Doren Shaw at the same time as Market Square. And it was originally used by the Young Men's Club. Later, it was adaptively reused for retail space, and some of the changes that were commented on were made at that time. The proposal that's before you tonight is really in my opinion, a creative way to update the building while still being respectful of the existing rhythm along the building that are created by the awnings that are currently there, and the signage proposal is appropriate with respect to the awnings and the signage. One observation in the staff report was with respect to the doors. Not saying that it's inappropriate to have the divided light windows, but just observing the central business district and other doors on other storefronts, this is a departure from what's there now. I think if it's done carefully, it could certainly be appropriate. And as was pointed out this evening, the restaurant down the street does have the divided light doors. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have, but we are recommending approval. And most of the conditions of approval that were noted as recommended have been addressed during this hearing.
All right, thank you very much. So we do have questions, I'm sure, and we're excited that you're excited, and we like to see retailers excited, so that's great. You know, this is an interesting kind of question for us. We've have a history of actually approving some different awning colors before, which maybe is why you were encouraged to do so. We have to be careful about that. So in my mind, I think there are kind of a couple, there's really only a couple issues on this. The color of the awning is, you know, something that we just have to come to grips with. The planter boxes, I'd like to ask you a little bit about that. I don't actually have personally a question about the doors, but do you have a picture of the south elevation of this building? Because the south elevation door has this divided light in it.
Yes, it does.
It does now. Yeah.
It does have the
And I noticed that the interior door in the build out that's going on right now also is divided like this. So my knee-jerk reaction was as well, I'm not so sure I like that, but after looking at it and seeing it on the south face of the building, I kind of feel like the entry door is kind of almost a transient part of the building at this point anyway. It's going to change, and it doesn't really bother me as long as it's well done. Are you painting the trim around the windows differently than the rest of the building?
There's white right now. There's a large band of white around all the windows on the building, and then on our window, there's a narrow band of almost like a bright turquoise. So what we'd like to do, just to make it a little more subtle and current, is just match that white and have it be a soft white instead of having a turquoise.
Okay. And so that's one of the things that when I think about this, and I'm asking a question while I'm kind of deliberating too, is that I like the awning color, and you guys might want to see it again. It doesn't bother me, but it doesn't particularly complement the other awnings all that great. You know, so that was the thing that caught my eye, is like it kind of fights it. Now, you know, there's this kind of like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? You know, when you walk down the street in Chicago, it's storefront after storefront after storefront, and there's kind of a fabric. Unfortunately, in this collection of buildings, you know, we have awnings that are all more or less the same and designed to be more or less the same. And so, you know, that's I'm just raising it as an issue for discussion. On the planter boxes, it's kind of funny to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planters lined up, and I'm wondering if, I know what you're trying to do there, the plantings at the foundation of the building are suffering and not doing very well, and it's, you know, you don't really want to tear up the sidewalk and put in something different there other than maybe plants, but so you're really kind of just covering up that bad spot with the planter boxes. But I'm wondering if it would be more successful if you somehow, I don't know, maybe Guy has an idea on that, but somehow that just strikes me as another one of those things that looks funny. So I don't have any other questions, actually. Did you guys have any questions? For the staff or the petition?
Well, I don't have any. I don't have questions. I think I understand. Well, yeah, I'll throw a question
There
out.
you go.
Have you gotten to the point with the doors yet? I mean, are they going to be insulated glass? Are they going to be double
Yes,
painted?
double insulated.
And so are these muntin bars going to actually be wood?
Yes.
Like the doors around the corner on the
Yes,
south side are?
Exactly. They're true divided lights.
Do you have a true divided light?
Yes.
Are they going to be true, or are they going to be simulated divided light?
I'm sorry, they're actually divided on each side, so they're not individual panels. They look to be true divided lights.
They're
They're not a snap and grill.
So they'll have the aluminum spacer bar in them.
No aluminum spacers.
Well, you kind of need that though in order to have the double pane. And I think Megan knows what I'm talking about, so maybe you might want to work with staff at that particular point. But and I'm not asking you necessarily. I just wondered, you know, if you knew what that was going to entail. Because are the windows now currently on the store and the door and that, are they all thermopane? Do they have double glazing? I can't remember. I was going to go by and look, and I can't recall.
I don't remember.
Yeah, they probably are. This was done maybe 20, 30 years ago. They probably did that.
I believe they are.
Yeah. that's fine. So you probably are gonna wanna double glaze them, and then that means
They
that.
have an entry vestibule.
Excuse me,
too.
I need to correct myself. They are double glazed. I just meant that there are 2 panes of glass
Yeah.
and 2 mullions of wood.
Okay.
One on the outside, one on the inside.
Okay.
Yes.
So what I'm leading to here, Megan, is that due to the width of these doors, and they look kind of narrow, I'm not sure if, are they 2'6" wide, or are they 3 feet wide each?
They're 2'10", and they're the same size as the doors that would be 15 light doors around the corner.
Yeah, now those doors, I don't know if those are thermal pane. They may just be single pane, because they look original, because they have that
Right.
beautiful little
I don't know whether.
serpentine,
Right.
attenuated serpentine. And the logistics of these doors get like this, Megan, is that by the time your window and door guy gets a hold of these dimensions and says you want to have an insulated glass, he's going to be making a certain width muntin bar. And you're a designer now, and you're doing, you know, a good job of convincing me that you have, you know, good taste and that you've got a good eye. So you're going to want to make sure he doesn't make those muntin bars so thick that when you get these 3 rows of glass together, it's going to start looking clunky.
No, it looks
Yeah,
spectacular.
but you haven't seen the door yet.
I
have
have
you?
seen the door.
The double glazed door?
The same door that's inside in a non-exterior door.
Is that
right
double
inside.
glazed though? And all that stuff?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yes,
all right.
it is.
Well, I'm just offering that because I don't want you to be surprised if you
Right.
get something that isn't going to be as tasteful as you're looking for. Okay. All right, those were my questions about the glass.
Okay, any other questions? Any comments from the public? There we go. Let's come on up and introduce yourself, and we'll.
I'm Gail, excuse me, Gail Hodges, 1257 West Deer Path. Long ago in another life, I was part of a committee that reviewed what was going on when John Vinci was redoing the buildings in Market Square, including this building. I will tell you there was a lot of careful research that went on about paint colors, and the awnings were discussed in incredible depth. I think it's wonderful that a business like this is coming to Lake Forest. I think that in another spot, what's proposed out there would look great. The awnings are sophisticated, the color is sophisticated. You know, I like the look of it, but we've got the historic building. And we've got what went into that to get to this point in the adaptive use of the old Young Men's Club. The research on the color, the research on the awnings. So it's something that I hope you would consider, because Market Square is a series of shops, but those shops are not individualized with different colors. You know, we're not like some streets in Williamsburg or Newport or something where everyone is kind of different. It's a whole, and it's kind of an organic thing. So I would hope that you would consider that as you look forward. And it's not to say that I don't think this is really, you know, a nice proposal for a business. And in another environment, I'd say, wow, this is really a great way to look. But I do question that in the environment, because if we keep nipping away at these things, after a while, Market Square isn't going to be Market Square anymore. It's just like some other things where we've had this. So I've been involved in historic preservation for a long time. I've been in your position as the chairman of the Building Review Board on the City Council. And I will say I would also like to compliment you on your decision in the last petition, because I know how hard it is when someone comes in at the last minute with something new, and it's always best to give it due consideration. So that's what I'd like to say.
All right, thank you. Any other public comment? There's not much else, not much other public out there, so. Well, come on. All right, thank you. Now's the opportunity for us to deliberate, so. Oh, sure, please, you're the public.
Shawgate owns the building, and there's also in Illinois.
Grab the microphone.
Oh, yes, sorry. Shawgate owns the building. There's also the Illinois Preservation, and they have looked at the design, and they actually had no comment on anything. They said if the door, they leave the door up to the city and to this commission to make a decision on that, and that was their only comment. They had no concern about trim or color or awnings or anything. So just another piece of information.
Thanks. Yeah, I can appreciate the difference in criteria between, you know, the Illinois preservation, perhaps thinking about an awning as accoutrement for a building versus, you know, a plan that the city had at least at one time to make these all work together. And I think that's, for me, that's the key here. I'm curious whether or not, I appreciate what you're trying to do with the awning. It's actually an opportunity to distinguish yourself and to highlight a kind of a design direction that's different than striped awnings, right? Okay. Is the color itself, do you have some latitude with respect to whether you would change that from green to some other color? I mean, I like the hardware. I don't think that's a problem. I understand you're looking for a cleaner line, and you probably don't want a white stripe, given what you're trying to do here. So that's my first question, is whether there's any latitude. And the reason I ask that question is because in my mind, I find the color fighting the composition of the building. I'm not thinking about it in terms of whether or not there's whether it's good to make all the awnings the same or all the awnings not the same. And frankly, I would feel a lot more strongly about duplicating the green awning, whether it's solid or striped, if the awnings in Market Square were in good shape. They're in awful shape. They're pathetic is what they are. Take a look around. And so, you know, frankly, what I'm concerned with, though, is that the building look good, that that's the appropriate, you know, clothing for the building to be in. And I'm not necessarily hung up on it all being the same, but I want it to look good together as a composition. And so right now it fights it for me. That's my problem, not for any other reason than the color. So that's my comment on that. Guy, I don't know, how do you look at these planners? I mean, is it just working fine for you? Do you have an idea on that? Is there something that, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. You've got this planner that happens at each pilaster, the rest of the building, and then all of a sudden we've got these planners. And what you don't see, the trees come down, you know, they're here, they're photoshopped out, but they're in front of this, so it's maybe not so dramatically different because of that, but.
Well, you asked me to comment on the planter boxes, so I'll just talk on that first and maybe let the other gentleman speak about things. But I love these planter boxes as elements, and I've seen them at some very elegant residences in town, and they work well as objects that punctuate, and you can't get any more punctual than these beautiful buttresses that come down on this building. They perform a number of things that are very sophisticated from an architectural design standpoint, because the time this building was constructed, there was a great argument among the architectural community on whether they were lying in their facade representations, because typically they had a great deal of mass and roof up above and lots of glass down below for the merchants. You can see it on all the buildings in Libertyville. They were all glassified on the lower story with their cast iron columns and steel columns and lots of brick up above, and it was called a lie. And we look at those buildings and we love them because there's such a dearth of character in a lot of our commercial buildings that we don't even think of that. But it was a big dilemma back then on how to do this. And so Shaw, you know, he didn't argue that it was okay to do it. He solved the problem. That wall has got a lot of glass in it. Yet the overall feeling you get when you look at that facade is that it's as solid as a rock. It's like almost like a fortress. So, what these planter boxes are doing on the building, where they're located, is they're in a rhythm with those tall buttresses, until you get to the strings that you kind of created with yours. And I'm wondering if you might be better served somehow revisiting the three in between under the windows. I think it's starting to look like it's a little bit too busy with planter boxes. I like your planter boxes in front of the pilasters, but it's getting a little too choo-choo train looking in between. And I'm just saying this and there's not a lot of people here, so I don't take offense, but I'm trying to figure out how to help you here. If maybe you just had two and there was something, and I'll be interested in hearing what the other commissioners think, but there's something a little overdone about it, and I'm wondering if maybe there's something you might be able to do under those windows to address your concerns. I looked at that area for planting you know, there right now. And, you know, and I don't quite understand that actually, because a store is all about getting people to come up to the glass and look inside, so why did they put dirt right there? And I guess that goes back to maybe when it was a young men's club, you know, I think. So I'm not sure about the number of your planter boxes. I love the design of them. I wish if you had brought one tonight, I would have got a chance to really look at it and adore it. But so that's the best I can do on the planter box thing. So I offered that to you as just a suggestion.
Well, a couple comments. I like the divided light door. I think that's a nice feature that's being brought in. Also admire your enthusiasm and energy that you've displayed here this evening. And my reaction is that the existing awnings, I think, much more reflect your energy than do the ones that are being proposed. Which, when I visited the site this morning and I saw the what was there and compared it to the photo, I thought, well, this is really, I think, going in the wrong direction. I held out the possibility that the photo was not giving us an accurate statement of color, and that might feel better when I saw the color, but I'm finding that the color is right on the sample he passed around. I think it's quite authentic with respect to the photo. And I actually share the comments that were expressed earlier by a member of the public. I'm sorry, I don't have the name at my fingertips, but didn't know the background, by the way, that John Vinci, having been a part of the study of this building. But I frankly thought the existing awnings are really just so right for the building. But apart from that, they are there, and the consistency of that facade in every respect, going across the facade from left to right, from top to bottom, it's consistent until we get to the proposal of different awnings. And I think it's really going against all of those forces to try to establish individuality of the occupancy, which I can appreciate why you would want to do that from a commercial point of view, but from the environmental result, I think it really is degrading to what is already there, which is quite vibrant and beautiful. I mean, the existing awnings have spark to them, and I think they just complement the building very nicely. And what they're doing is consistent across the facade, as is everything else consistent across the facade. And so I would think it would be a mistake, for example, if the people to the north were to change their awnings to match yours. I think the building took a big hit, because I think it's much better with the awnings that are there. I'm sorry. I mean, I thought I might be the only person to express that, and I still may be, by the way, but those are my feelings.
Was that comment more towards the style of the awning or the color?
I beg your pardon?
Was your comment more towards the style of the awning or the color?
No, it's towards the deviation from the consistency of awnings across that, and then it's also what are the awnings and which are preferable, the proposed or the existing. Yeah. I find the existing to be preferable. They really have a spark to them.
But existing by the spark means the fabric, because the line on the top is exactly the same. I mean, this is just a rendering.
Oh, I understand that. Yeah, there are I'll give you 2% credit for that. The line's the same. I think 98% we're losing.
So Fred's a harsh grader, but let me see if I can put it in a better perspective. So if you take your eye and you just blur it, do that. That's an important thing to do. You can walk around your house and it makes everything look better. You can see that the massing changes when that happens. Well, that's the view that you get when you drive down the street, because you don't really see the building. You see the building, but you're going by it. And what happens is that there's kind of a rhythm that happens because the awnings are lighter than the space around them, and they pop, pop, pop like that. And then on the other side, it doesn't have that anymore. I think that's kind of what you're talking about, how it's a compositional element. Those awnings that are existing are helping the overall composition, and he's not so sure that he likes the, did I get that?
Yes, and I would share the comments that were made earlier about other downtown areas that might be different from this one, in which, for example, if we had not just 2 occupancies, but 15 or 12 or 8, of which 2 are doing this and 1's doing that, and 3 are doing their own thing, and there's a vibrancy in the deviation, that they're each different, and that could happen. I don't think there's deviation when there's actually done a competition between half the building has deviated, and the other half is
But do
doing its thing.
you think there's a way to do it that would resolve this that was different on the north side?
Not to my mind. I mean, the next thing I would be thinking about, if I were trying to find a compromise, if that's what it is, would be that the new awnings are also striped, and they share in that feature, but they have changed their color. I might like that about 50% more than what we have, but I don't think it's at the 100% that we need for me to feel good about it.
The striping.
Feel free to tuck him into it. You need his vote, actually, tonight.
One thing that the striping does for this building is that, unlike a modern or more contemporary office building or a commercial building where it would be one big expanse of glass, the kind of solid color green, you can imagine that in your mind being typical, that you would see that. But with all these mutton bars and Shaw's tremendous use of the thicker muttons and then the divided lights, particularly on the second floor, all that creates a frequency, and it starts with the buttresses, the wide spacing buttresses that march across almost like Doric columns, and then you've got the mullions of the windows further dividing, and then you got another subdividing device going with those little square mutton bars, so that when you get down to the striping, what the striping is actually doing, maybe it's unintentionally doing it, but it's taking what normally is just decoration, and it's actually amplifying that frequency. That's the scale defining device, so it gets it into kind of a fever pitch. And so that's why I think Fred's so attracted to it, because it's actually not terribly abstracted down to just big blocks of glass and big blocks of roofing and big blocks of fabric. So it's hard to fight all that, because that's all good design stuff that's on that building now. And I know what you're trying to do is you're trying to be distinctive, and that's a dilemma here. And when you think about Market Square as a whole, when Shaw designed this building and then the corresponding bank on the other side, he went for solid rhythm, and he went for symmetry, and he went for great repetitive similarity. There's nothing different about any one of these bays, and he did that for a reason. You get into the square on the other side, and every single store is different. Every single elevation, the two sides aren't even the same. Every doorway is different. He deliberately made every one of those shops have a different character, and he did it with his architecture, so as to give the people what you're trying to get, but you're doing it on the the one building side that he didn't set up for you to come along and do it with. That's what's happening here. And I know Kurt is very sympathetic with trying to help you achieve some distinction here, because we really want to help promote commercial activity in town like you wouldn't believe. It's one of my pet peeves. I'm so excited when you guys come in front of us. So this is a real dilemma for us, because one aspect of it isn't just preservation. It's such a tremendous masterpiece of architecture. So the three of us here, or the four of us here, are so driven to help that maintain its identity. But we're also trying to accommodate you, and this is, something that should be rather simple and straightforward is really getting emotional for us. So we don't, I'm not quite sure what to do. I mean, the thing is the awnings are temporary, and the door is even temporary, so I'm inclined to say, well, I mean, those can always be rectified, and then on the other hand, but does it have to come on a piece of building that's so distinctive for us in town? It's our architectural navel. So I don't know. What do you think about this, Mr. Ransom? You're always pretty square, level-headed on these things.
Well, this rarely happens to me. Because I usually have my mind made up pretty well before before things start to happen. Reading materials and hearing the presentation and stuff. And not that I don't respect my other commissioners, because they always have great insights that educate me, being the non-architect on this commission. But I was having absolutely no problem with any elements till I sat here and listened to everybody, and I got the education that I was probably lacking about this building and the design elements on it. And I'm starting to have problems that Guy was really talking about. I didn't have a problem with the planters at all till he was talking, and I was sitting here looking at him and listening to his explanation about them. When he said they kind of look like a train going down the street, it really struck me. And I'm seeing how that really is maybe too much for the rest of the streetscape, and that removal of some of those planters, the three in between the buttresses, seems to me to be a really, really good idea. Again, the awning, I thought I didn't have a lot of problems with. I thought the color might have been a little bit light, but after hearing Fred's comments and again Guy's, I can see how maybe it's too much of a departure both for the building and the other awnings that are along that streetscape. I was ready to approve this, and now I'm having problems. I don't know that helps either anybody here on the commission or the petitioner at this point.
I'm interested in getting kind of like some feedback now that the petitioner has heard our discussion. I mean, she's a design person, so she can, I think, appreciate the way we're coming at it. And I'm wondering if that is giving her an idea or a thought, or if you think we're just crazy, which is possible.
Well,
yes.
I will say I'm devastated. I'm shocked. I'm devastated. It's hard to look at a photograph like this with superimposed, choo-choo train. It's not a choo-choo train. They're beautiful planters. Maybe the proportion isn't exactly right. Certainly the scale isn't, or the dimension on the photograph. They will be subtle. They will be sophisticated. It will not look like a train. They're expensive planters. They're beautifully made. They have the detail. I think they will be beautiful and a great addition to the building. I will tell you that before we signed the lease with Broadacre, I specifically asked, can I get rid of that awning? And as much energy as I have, and I do have energy, this is how detail-oriented I am. I would not, I can't live with that awning. I mean, if you make me live with it, I will be devastated. It's not the right feeling for my business. It doesn't send the right message to my client. And while it worked for Burmeister, and I understand that they're side by side, just if you go around the corner, if you look to your right, if you look to the south, if you look all around Market Square, and you can say that they're different, but it's the same architect and he has the same brilliance. And to allow us to differentiate our space, we took such care to design the space, and we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars investing in this business, and to allow us to have it translate the image to our clientele is so important to us. We've tried to be so respectful of the architecture and of the village sign regulations and the awning size and the placement on the lentils and the color. We were told that the only thing we had to do was stay in the green color family. And indeed, if you read the ordinance, that's what is put out there, at least what I read. So if you look at my green with boxwood, which is what the planters will be, it's a beautiful combination. It's just, I understand what you gentlemen are saying, and I respect it very much. I guess I would ask you, please, to consider that this is absolutely my image, and the success of my business is so important to me and to my partner. And to have a green and white striped awning will just devastate me. And I think that once you see what we do, you'll love it. And if you want to come and I'm confident that what we do will be so much more beautiful than you can see from the picture. And I'm in the design business. I work for some pretty spectacular people who are pretty particular. And I would just ask you with all my enthusiasm and passion if you would give us an opportunity to make this happen in our space.
Does this happen at the south elevation too? Is there an awning at the south elevation?
Yes.
There is. So it goes just the window, but not the door?
The door's not ours.
The door's not yours?
Right,
It's just
exactly.
the- So this turns so it turns the corner, and then the
Exactly.
planters would be the same detail along the corner. And with respect to the planter, if you took 3 of those planters and you instead spaced 2 under the window so that there was a little bit of space between each one of those and the pilasters, how do you react to that? As
You
a
know, there
suggestion?
actually is, and that's, Mr. Parrish, what I was saying, that Annette did the best she could with the computer part of it, and there's actually approximately 5 inches of space between the planters.
Mhm.
It's hard to see on that computer rendering.
I see.
But we played with them outside the building. I played with it in one of my designscapes.
Yeah.
And it feels good. I'm very aware of architecture. And if I get it out there and it doesn't feel right, I wouldn't do it.
Is the planters actually, are those something that we actually have to approve or not approve? This is for staff to respond to if they
In this
want to.
case, it really is part of the storefront, so it is something that you should approve.
But I mean, if another merchant was wanting to take and put out, because I notice they do that from time to time, they put planters out, I mean, do they have to get approval to do that? Or do they just move them in and out, you know, as kind of the impulse, you know?
The planters in Market Square were part of
The
the
lay-
Market Square streetscape, and those streetscape elements didn't come before the commission. Now, on occasion, I suppose,
Yeah.
some businesses may move a planter out for a day
Sure.
or a couple weeks, and
Yeah.
but technically, they should be approved.
Yeah.
There are actually lots of planters. I went by with my camera on Market Square and around that are there all the time that are very similar to, that are not the city's planters and that are in front of their storefronts.
Well, can you put the elevation back up? I guess we're still kind of deliberating, aren't we?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because I don't think that we said that, you know, I guess, Megan, part of what we're trying to do here, and that's why I was kind of hesitating on commenting until Kurt put me on the spot with the planter boxes. And maybe put up the photograph, though, if you're intended. Yeah, that is that. I guess because this stuff isn't permanent, like I said before, it's not like you're changing the bricks or the buttresses, but this is fabric and it's going to get replaced someday anyway.
Exactly.
I was kind of wondering how far we would go with the discussion. Everything that you've heard from us, and you're a designer, but we're also designers, and we're also dealing with a preservation here. So we gave you our what is
That's
it?
the unadulterated version.
Yeah, we gave you what we believe is true. So I guess if we didn't tell you that, Megan, and I was actually thinking if we didn't say this to you and just approved it, we wouldn't be doing you a service because you're going to survive by your design.
Exactly.
Designability, okay?
Exactly.
So to not like let you in on what we think is important here would probably be not fair to you. So what we've told you is the best we've got. You're taking your chance with what you do here. It's going to be basically your idea of good design, and that's your prerogative. So I don't know. I mean, when we said the things we said about it, it wasn't as if I said I wasn't going to let her do it. I was kind of wondering, these things do go against the building, but can it survive it? That's why I said I don't know what to do with this one, because everything Fred said resonates with me completely. And it sounds like staff is actually willing to let them go ahead with making these types of alterations, because they're not specific to the architecture of the building. They're basically fabric, and they're removable planters. So this is a hard one for me,
Well,
Go ahead,
we're not saying we are concerned with the appearance of a building unless it's fabric, in which case we're not concerned. We are still going to see it whether it's fabric or
Yeah,
not.
I know.
And so I think we have to be concerned with what we're going to see. And for some period of time, until they deteriorate and go away.
Yeah. Do they ever?
Then you could get the striped awnings back.
Well, what if they weren't striped though? Is there something else that you would like?
Well,
Or is there nothing else that you
I
would
think
like?
that's a moot point, because the building has this feature that's consistent across it. I think if you were going to say, well, we're going to change all of it together, hey, I'm open to what might that be, except I happen to like what's there. But that doesn't mean that's the only thing that could ever be there. It's the consistency that I think is so important. I see this facade being in the public domain. I really do. It's, I was thinking in my head, it's almost like a grand facade on a major piazza in Europe. It faces a space, and it has consistency across it, and it's very photogenic. It's what would go on a postcard in Europe, but not after you change half of it.
What, for
example? Another analogy I was thinking about is say the U.S. Capitol, where let's say the Speaker of the House, to make it political, decides that he wants to express himself, so he puts an awning on his window to show that he has certain ideas. I think it would not be allowed.
He is setting up a business there, and his business depends on, his business is his image, and his business is his livelihood.
Yeah.
Shouldn't he be allowed, especially
Well,
when he's told?
maybe Congress members maybe should be able to express themselves and each put different things outside their window.
well,
I don't think so.
I mean, I don't think that's.
Well, but Fred, I do think that there's something to say for the fact that, this is the calling card for a business, and there must be some
I understand
latitude.
that. And how to resolve that dilemma.
But there must be some latitude to allow the awnings to change and still accomplish what they're intended to accomplish, which is to complement the rest of the rhythm of the architecture. For example, if you just, and I'm not suggesting this is the solution, but if you change that awning to black, then all of a sudden, what's up on the left, you have a facade that comes in and out because it has a different rhythm. All of a sudden, the rhythm is reinforced again on the right. Now, it doesn't go together necessarily, but it's it doesn't blend together, if you will. I mean, I'm not expressing this very well, but I'm just wondering if there's, in your mind, you're locked into the solution that's on the left, so long as the left exists, right? And I'm thinking.
Well, I think there's quality about it, by the way, to be admired. What's on the left?
Okay, hard to argue.
Well, you see the highlights of the awning between the pilasters, and on the right, it almost have disappeared visually. Virtually disappeared.
So, can I ask about the schedule? You guys are building inside. What's your planned opening date?
First week in October.
First week in October.
Really need to get our awnings ordered. And the awnings that are there are really in terrible condition.
Sure.
And underneath even the.
It's rusted. They're anything but high quality. And
we've got 4 awning companies looking on, they all would replace them.
Well, I kind of feel like Guy feels, we've thrown it on the table. This is kind of like how we feel about it, and I'm not overwhelmed by which direction it goes, only from the standpoint that I think of it as transient, hopefully not too transient.
Well, if I have to have striped, it'd be very
but in terms of the architecture that's been there for whatever 100 years, the awnings will change over time. So I'm not overly concerned about it. I'm not so crazy about even 5 inches between the planter boxes, but they're kind of the same. And frankly, you may get out there and decide after you put a plan that 2 works better than 3, and then you'll have 1 extra to put in your house or something. But who knows? I feel like that's almost something that could happen as you go. But I'm not sure you got Fred, and without Fred, you got nothing tonight.
Well, no, I'm sorry, I have a different opinion. I have the opinion I have, except I really do feel very strongly.
So I'm wondering if there's
do we have to have all 4 unanimously approved?
All 4 to agree with?
Yeah.
Well, I feel that the planter box thing, after I said what I said about it for you, is something that I would feel comfortable letting you work out in reality. That's, you may hear it from some other people too and decide you want to rearrange them. That's very temporary. You can literally get a dolly and move it. And I'm fine with the door, because I saw the door on the side, and I love that light, and I think everybody thinks that the door looks relatively acceptable, I think, from what we've discussed. So I think it kind of just and then whatever you want to do with the pane on the windows you described, I think that sounds like that's straightforward, I think, isn't it?
Well, I think that's wonderful. That's in the spirit of what I'm trying to express about the audience.
Yes.
You're creating a consistency with what's there that is presently lacking, and you're going to make it more consistent by putting the white around rather than turquoise. I applaud that.
So, I mean, I think that's two items right there, or three that we're I think basically in agreement with. And it looks like the awnings are going to be something that we're not going to be able to get everybody on board with this evening. And that's a dilemma for you. I think that.
Well, if I could understand from Mr. Moyer, is the only, am I hearing you properly, that the only awning that you will approve is what's there?
I haven't seen any other awning that I think is equal to what is there. And the question is, and the chairman said, could there be another awning that could be different but still work? I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Do you mean awning fabric? Is that what you mean?
I beg your pardon?
Do you mean awning fabric? Is that?
Awning result.
Well, I think she's talking about
which is fabric, color, pattern,
but in terms
whatever
of
it is.
in terms of the hardware and the depth of it and the line of it, I don't think we're reacting negatively to that necessarily. So in other words, you know, you're looking at the hardware, and Fred, if I'm wrong, tell me, but you know, there's a specific solution on these north awnings, which is a galvanized, you know, awning structure that, you know, comes up and down in a certain way, and what they're proposing here is something that's a little, you know, in their mind has a little more polish to it, it's a different finish, and it would be a subtly different depth of awning too, right? It would be not as, same depth?
No, it's not. It's not. It's slightly, it's just the same height.
Same height,
Yes.
but a little bit narrow,
Yeah,
a little bit narrower on the
right.
sidewalk. So it's a subtly different awning structure as well. Which to me, I think goes hand in glove with the fabric, because if you say that it has to be the same fabric, then it really ought to be the same structure, because now it's a part of the building that repeats, right? If you allow it to vary, then the hardware, I think, doesn't really make much difference anymore, right? It's you either got one or the other. You either have a variation or you have the same thing.
I think visual consistency is what is there now, and I would be concerned about losing it. However, in whatever ways it gets lost. I think the quality of the hardware is wonderful to have quality in the hardware. I'm not sure how many other things come with it. That's, you know, that's very small scale and close up, and it looks great. If it is contributing to making an awning a different kind of an awning than what's there, I don't think that's a great idea.
You know, but where do we go with visual consistency? Because the doorways are different. Just in this picture. Well, just in this picture alone, you know, you see that, you know, the store next door has steps going up, and you know. And Fred, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I also understand the petitioner's dilemma. You know, I'm going back and forth, and you know, you want to keep the integrity of the building, but at what cost? We have we certainly have consistency in some areas, but we're lacking consistency in other areas. You know, so I mean,
I think, you know, I hear what you're saying. This is a very strong feature that we can see, you know, from 80 feet away. Those awnings can be seen. You don't see the hardware from 80 feet away. So it's
I'm talking about doorways, entrances to the different.
Yeah, and those things are falling under the awning in the shade. I think there could be variations there that can be lived with. Although I think the divided light is a nice way of coming back in with something that I think is a good feature. But just looking at it, you know, light, you see the light is catching the whites in the stripes, for example. Mm-hmm. It's a light element. It contrasts with the shade under it.
What if they were
and on the right, there's no such contrast.
What if they were white?
But that's the only element in the building that has that contrast. I mean, if you look at the rest of the composition, it doesn't have that contrast. The only way we're picking it up is in the awning. I mean, I suppose if you reflect off the glass some way, I mean, if you're looking for that strong contrast, you should get rid of those striped awnings and go with something else, because the building doesn't.
I'm not trying to go down any of those paths. I'm just reacting to what is there and what is proposed.
I understand.
A couple thoughts from staff?
Please.
Okay.
lots of good comments, lots of good discussion, and I think the bottom line is Market Square really is the core of Lake Forest. So I think of all decisions, I think this is important because what you decide here will come back to you in some form. So a couple thoughts, and I don't know if these are good ideas or not good ideas. One thought is that without taking action, you could form a subcommittee so that subcommittee of the commission could meet with the petitioners to really talk through options, fully understand, walk the site, meet at the site, fully try to better understand exactly what is proposed, see the planters, really touch and feel it, work through that, and then ideally bring a solution back to the commission in September. I know that's tight, but it really gives you time to work through that. A second thought, and I don't even know if this is workable or a good idea or a bad idea, if you were to approve something at some point, some change, maybe there could be some kind of a condition or some kind of a bond that would require that when this particular use leaves that space, that it be restored, that there be no approval carrying forward for any of these elements, if that makes sense. A requirement for restoration. So just two thoughts for what they're worth.
Well, my suggestion would be if there, and I know you probably don't feel like you have the luxury of time, but if there was the luxury of time, I could see definitely looking at an opportunity to either look at some options in a subcommittee on the awning, or just having you look at this and come back and give us some options, because there's two things. We do normally have 6 commissioners here. We do need 4 to get a quorum. So that's one thing. We don't have the benefit of 2 commissioners that can outvote Fred.
Go back one. I'm not
3
there.
more. I'm sorry, 3 more. But really, it's not about Fred. It's about just the input of some more brain power on our side. So we're a little shorthanded, and that's unfortunately not to your benefit tonight. Myself, I feel like there's a range of solutions. There's got to be a range of solutions. It's okay in my mind to have individual retailers have a personality. I think that's what you're trying to do, is have your own personality. But I do think that compositionally it should work for the whole building, and I'm not so glued personally to one solution as being the only solution, but I think it does need to work together, and I think for some reason, I don't know, I can't define why, and it's certainly not because, the green in my mind, I know the city has this rule that it's either green or but I'm not sure green has to be the answer. If the solution works, and I can't tell you what the solution is until I see it. I recognize if it works or not. For some reason, I'm on the fence on this one myself. So I can certainly see Fred's point of view in terms of it maybe not working perfectly. I'm not inclined to just live with this with a restoration clause. I mean, I think we need to decide what we like and allow it. And if we don't like it, then it doesn't matter that someday it might change. I think it's a decent idea, but I'd be much happier with a solution that we all like. So I don't know. I mean, is having the benefit of a little more time an awful thing here in this? I mean.
Well, it is for us because it takes 6 weeks to get an awning done, and we can't do our planters or our painting until we get approval on that. So.
Well, I think the planners I think we could probably move forward on everything but the awning if that's helpful. I don't think that we've got, correct me if I'm wrong, if someone feels strongly about the other items, it seems like, what Guy was talking about is probably a workable.
I think the petitioner is saying that the color of the awning is tied directly to the planters.
I see.
Until there's approval of the awnings, she doesn't even know if she'll go with those planters. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I see.
It's a look. And if I can say one other thing, we are trying to bring something different to Lake Forest. stores. We have hired PR. We will get our storefront in national magazines. It has to be perfect when we open. We can't do it in phases. We're looking at another site in town. We're fortunate to be able to look at this space. When we signed the lease, put a lot of money down, we were under the understanding that green, and there was some flexibility here. So we've been working under that understanding. We haven't had any pushback, and we believe that it's within the law. The other thing, if I can say, is, in other parts of Market Square, I mean, I guess to me, this is Market Square. When I hear people say Market Square, it's more the square that's in the front. So maybe that's just terminology. But even in the front, people are picking different colors of green. I mean, Jay McLaughlin, look, they came in with spa green. There are lots of different colors. The two on the other side are two very different awnings. And if I'm a business and I walk down the street here, I get confused. Is this a jeweler or is this not a jeweler? If there's some differentiation in the awning, it's hard to exist as a business, especially the business we're in. I've walked down there before, and the same awning, you think it's all the same business. There has to be some differentiation, and again, we try to make it as simple as possible and keep it in the Green family. But now I see that there are two stores there. Before, if I looked at that, I wouldn't know what it was. It was one big jeweler, or one big something. The awnings are, in all the places are big, they hang over, you can't really see what's going on in the stores. And, retail is important these days. And, Meg and I have put a lot of money into this. We're both very upset. We're very surprised right now. This is our own money, we're funding this, we're trying to bring some life to Lake Forest. And we're trying to do it in a nice, simple, sophisticated manner. And have a store that you can see that it is a slightly different store, but it fits with. We're not taking any change, you can still see the curves of the building. Just simple. September 27th would mean we would be able to open until middle of November. I mean, that money-wise would throw our whole store off. We don't get into the holiday season, it's just.
And again, we're not trying to be difficult or at all. This is this is what we were told when we signed the lease. We read the laws. We talked to Shawgate.
They showed us fabrics green. As long as it's green.
As long as it's green, you're good.
Fred, I don't know if you've seen the awning they're talking about on the other side of Market Square. It's on the south elevation. Well, I guess it's the south side of Market Square, in the middle of Market Square. It's basically the same color green. I would
Yeah,
guess.
it's even lighter. It's more blue, actually.
Well, I think Commissioner Berg stated it very well when he said on the other side of Market Square, other things are happening. On this facade, it's one consistent facade that they're creating. And I agree with his statement, and that really is consistent with my reaction.
Well, I don't have any good ideas.
I'll throw out one more, again, not sure if it's a good idea, to do a near-term subcommittee and bring the board back for a special, very short meeting, sometime sooner than September 27th, if the board would be willing to do that.
How much public notice to?
Well, the other thing you can do is you can approve it.
Because there aren't residential neighbors, if we have 7 days, we could do an unappropriate public notice for this.
Yeah.
We could poll for a.
I mean, the other thing we could do is we could approve it subject to the subcommittee approving it, and make Fred part of that subcommittee. That doesn't mean that you're going to get him to approve it. So, or even be willing to be in the subcommittee. But I think I'm struggling with ways to get around the real process here. And if we're at a stalemate, we're at a stalemate. So
because there seem to be many concerns, I think, approving it and authorizing a subcommittee to give final approval. that may not be the right approach. It
Understand.
might be better to do a quick, what you would hope would be a quick meeting to bring you all back together and do that as quickly as possible. That's an option.
Well, Kathy, I'm willing to do that if you can put together a quorum to do that, but that supposes that there's a solution that's different. I'm not sure that's working for these folks in any case.
We're not, if I could just say, we're not married to this particular green. Again, we were trying to work within the parameters that we were given when we signed the lease 3 months ago. So if we could do black, if we could do charcoal gray, if we could do, I mean, if you want more weight, I guess we need some guidance. But what I'm hearing from Mr. Moyer is green and white stripe or I don't get approval. And I just...
And that's I think where there is some disagreement necessarily, maybe the wrong, too strong a word for it, but at least difference of opinion between at least Fred and I, is that I could see a different solution that works fine compositionally with this. I'm not sure what it is, but I don't know that it has to be the same. I think what Fred's saying is well, maybe so, but you're gonna have to show me that because I don't see it, right?
I think it's reasonable to say if we're going to think about a different solution, we should know what it is.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, we want to hesitate to try to design this on the floor, because one could say, well, maybe the frequency of striping might be the solution, so that that distant view that Fred's talking about, that's not really that distant, it's real, would register so that there was still balance with the facade, yet there could be distinctive individualism. I mean, part of being a designer, too, you're going to learn is you have to learn how to bend a little bit and still win. In fact, sometimes having constraints put on you results in a design that's better than what you came up with in the beginning. And while you might think this is a huge stumbling block at this particular time of the night, what Fred might be doing for you is giving you a great boost for your business, because it might be that you'll get a more distinctive awning and everyone will laud you with being so clever while you're different but you're the same. I mean, that's a great thing that Shaw did with his towers. If you go look at the first view you see of Market Square, he has 2 towers there, but they're not the same, but they are the same. So maybe what you need to do is figure out how, if I was going to give you direction and you weren't trying to tell us that you have to get this done in so many weeks because you have to open, and I understand those are real concerns because I'm in business too, but if you were asking for direction and we were going to be a little calmer about this, and it's hard not to be emotional, I would say, is there a way for you to try to make that look more compatible, but go ahead and try to be distinctive and call out that you have a different store here so that registers, but not have it be, as Fred aptly put, so unbalanced of a thing that it's almost as if you have disregard for the facade. And I know you don't, but it would be, I can tell you, I know a dozen people in the back of my mind right now, they see that's what I'm going to hear about on the street. They don't tell me because they know I don't listen to them. I tell them they have to come here and say it after everyone's done, like I have to stay all night. But they will say it amongst themselves. So maybe it would behoove you, if you were really clever as a business person, to try to make everybody a little bit more satisfied with the solution. So there, I'm trying to put a positive direction on our deliberations tonight. Maybe we're doing you a big favor. And if there's a subcommittee that might help speed this along, I think that's a great idea, Kathy. That's you always come up with such great suggestions, and that might actually work here more than on some petitions, I think. And that's the best I can do at this point. I don't mind the door. I'm going to let you get your planter box, deal figured out for yourself. If you buy more than you think you want, then that's part of the process, and that's temporary. But maybe this awning thing we can work on a little bit more carefully and quickly.
Okay, so I think where we're at is that we would be looking for a motion to continue and form a subcommittee, and we would be amenable, if there's a resolution at subcommittee, to a quick special meeting to approve this in the event that everybody seems like that would be productive. I would ask Fred if he would want to be part of that subcommittee. Thank you. And I would ask Guy if you'd be willing to be part of that, or if you'd rather not be part of that. We have other commissioners that we could.
We
can figure that out.
If you
later,
would
so.
think that I would be of assistance, I will be more than happy to try to help them get
Okay,
going
then
and
let's sort
try to
the
actually
subcommittee members out
make this a
later,
better
Because I think I
petition.
want to make sure we include the rest of the commissioners in an opportunity to participate in that. And if there's any other comments before I make that motion?
Could we possibly get approval on the planters and the door so that we could at least get that in the works? And whatever else you
I think
can
that's okay.
approve?
Yeah, I have no problem.
that's
The
okay.
staff think that that's
Trim.
perfectly, I thought it
The
was
trim,
nice.
and then that the only issue is the awning
Yeah,
color? Maybe
so
the
the
awning color?
motion would be an approval with the exception of the canopy.
I just want to make sure everyone is clear on exactly what trim is being painted.
Yeah, please,
I know
thank you.
Megan had to leave, but she did have a concern. So maybe if you'd review that one more time, just so the commission is clear on what is proposed to be repainted.
The paint, the trim around the windows is already white, mainly white with a little turquoise. We're going to paint out the turquoise to be white.
So Fred, if you look on the left-hand side, all the way at the end of the building, that window that is white with a turquoise front is the same all the way through. And what they want to do is they want to just get rid of the turquoise so it's all white.
Kind of picking up the green and white stripes there next to it.
So, I'm okay with that. I think that's subtle. For
It's
myself,
very,
I
it will
think
be
it's-
very subtle, I have to say.
Yeah, I think
And
that's-
then we'd like to paint the door whatever color we're allowed to paint the door
Well,
that would match the awning.
okay, so the door color would be subject to the awning approval too?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think that would be helpful for us to, I think we either need to know what it is or we need to approve it later.
Okay,
So
but
let's-
if you could approve the door so we could
Yeah.
order.
Okay, so, anybody want to try their hand at that motion? Maybe Guy should try that one.
I'd like
You
to,
always get that.
I
okay.
always give the hard ones to Guy.
I would like to make a motion to approve the petition in the following manner. The particular awning component of this petition will be directed to a subcommittee of the commission that will assist the petitioner along with staff presence at the meeting to try to arrive at some kind of a refinement of the awning color and perhaps composition in terms of numbers of colors or striping, etc. And then upon that completion of that subcommittee, return to the commission as a whole for final deliberation. The components of tonight's petition, insofar as the new doors with its divided lights, planter boxes, and repainting of the sash to be approved as presented, and color of the door to be complementary to the awnings at, I think, a reasonable level of contrast.
And so I think if I may, the hardware would be part of the awning review, right?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so the motion has been made by Commissioner Berg. Thank you for that tough motion, and I'll ask for a second.
Can I ask one question
second.
on the motion? There's one thing I didn't understand.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so when you said the subcommittee will be awning, and then it's subject to bringing it back to the full committee for approval, is that, can that be done before September 27th?
We'll try to work with you to make that happen.
Okay.
We'll be available if that.
Great.
And that's subject to staff being able to accommodate that as well. So Kathy will do her best, but I know that, part of the problem is that they have a full agenda of other things going on, but we'll do our best to accommodate an early meeting if we can. Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Ransom. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And so we've continued the awning portion of this approval, including the hardware and the color and the door color, but everything else is approved. And really, good luck. We're really excited that you're here, and trust me, we're not trying to make your life miserable, and I hope, you can look back at this maybe 4 months from now and say it was really helpful.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Let's see, this is an opportunity, I think that's our last petition. This is an opportunity for the public to address the Historic Preservation Commission on non-agenda items. Are there any of those tonight? And I see none, so I'll ask if there's any additional information from the staff.
We will work with you on the subcommittee for this item, and then we will, if that work seems to be progressing, we will poll you for a meeting date. We will also work on a draft of this item on the agenda first and get a tape of this part of the meeting to the commissioners who aren't present tonight so that they are informed about this petition.
And Kathy, can I just ask for the record, will a special meeting like that, is that required to be a televised public meeting? Or could it be incorporated with a different meeting if we had a scheduled meeting, like, for example, on a different date for something else? Like on September 15th?
They don't have to be televised. We had one.
Because that's a joint meeting, I'm not sure that would be the best.
Okay.
The meeting would not have to be televised, we would need to do public notice.
But my
So we
point
can
is
work
if
with
we're
you.
all in the room for a different meeting, perhaps we could hold a meeting after that meeting or something like that. Okay,
We'll look
something
at
we
all
can work out.
options and
Okay.
try and work with the timing of the petitioners.
Thanks.
On a completely separate matter, I did want to let you know that in response to Ms. Lopat's concerns and comments, we are actually reviewing our tree removal permit application to try and get more information up front. So I just wanted to let you know we are taking those comments to heart and trying to make some improvements in our process.
Okay, thank you for that. And, you know, as a part of that process, if you think that there's something else that we should be attending to with respect to the ordinance, I think we'd be pleased to know about that as well. So, all right, any other items? I'll ask if there's a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Anson, seconded by Commissioner Berg. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you and good evening.
Gosh, you know, I just.